Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just going to try not to.
Good stuff. All righty, bow hunters, welcome back. I'm sitting here online with Mr. Sean Chick. Sean, thank you for coming on, mate. I appreciate you making the time.
A pleasure, mate. It's been a while, but it'll be good.
So, we had a little interesting situation this year where I was going to come up and hunt your block up on the up around Emerald, chasing the rooster stag. And what was very interesting, actually, I found this all out from you and Ben Solaris was that it was originally my cousin's granddad that had kind of introduced the original species up there, and I had no idea until I started talking about it on the podcast about kind of my beginnings of bow hunting and where it kind of, I guess, the fancy got tickled a little bit when I was younger, when Lester, who was my cousin's granddad, came and gave us slingshots, and he always had his game animals hanging up. He had his shoulder mounts all up on the walls, and yeah, different stuff that he had done over in Africa, and even just around. He had some pretty big boars he'd shot, I think, from around Australia, maybe up at the Cape. I'm not really sure. I need to call him, actually. I've got his number. I'm going to call him and have a chat because I don't know how many more years he's got left, unfortunately. But it was kind of like he definitely dangled that carrot to me when I was very young. And I talked about him on one of the very early podcasts, and you tied the strings together. And only found out from Benny on another podcast. Then he was like, "Mate, you're actually tied to this." I'm like, "Surely not." And then, sure enough, I've asked the question since and talked to my cousins about it, and they've confirmed, like, yes, it's definitely the case. So I do need to have a chat with Lester about that. But yeah, I think one of the biggest things that came about from us chatting in general was the fact that when you got to this block, it actually was not well managed. There was not many deer on there, and you kind of did a whole protocol that helped you to build the whole species back up, which I think is very interesting in general. But I mean, before we get into that, because that's really what I'd love to dive into the depths. Just when did you get into bow hunting? How did it kind of start for you and that whole avenue?
Long story. I probably dabble in everything, and yeah, don't. I'm not a flat out bow hunter or anything like that, but probably back at school, when school was normal and you could have, we did clay target shooting at school, and I used to ride to school with a shotgun on the handlebars of my bike.
Wow.
That's stuff which everyone would freak out about at the moment, but yeah, in Victoria it's a bit different. So you had a junior shooter's permit. We were 16, and then yeah, I was used to ride with a gun on the handlebars of the bike and take it straight to the office and
Yeah.
register in the office, and then yeah, wait for afternoon sport and school. I went to a technical school, boys only, and we had our own little clay target range just out of Wodonga, and yeah, set the trap up, and that was our sport. So yeah,
Very different world.
yeah, and always dad was always small game down there, which was rabbits, foxes, and that sort of jargon. Trapping and ferreting was a good one,
Hmm.
using ferrets, and yeah. And then school, obviously school with the bows. So earlier on, just I had a Samick recurve, 50-pound recurve,
Nice.
Samick, and just used to glue the old 38 specials on the front of the cedar shafts and go rabbit hunting and
How
do
good.
all that sort of stuff. And yeah, flues for birds if you ever could hit one. Not many people might know what flues are, but just
Yeah.
make your own flues out of the turkey feathers and try and shoot sparrows and stuff out of trees. And
How good.
yeah, yeah, and then just progressed to a Hoyt. I think it was a Hoyt Pro Hunter compound.
Hmm.
And one mate at school, he was quite a good shot. Though that's all they did. They weren't rifle hunters, so they just they chased goats. And yeah, long story short, I ended up having an uncle that lived in Tottenham, um, up in New South Wales. So there was pigs and goats there. And when my mate got his license, we just headed up there, and everyone said, I've been listening to podcasts and having a giggle because they say you can't shoot cedar arrows out of a compound and you shouldn't do it. And we shot thousands out of it. No sights. There was no sights back then, so it was off the shelf.
Yeah.
It was pretty primitive, and yeah, we weren't real tech savvy, so we just let it rip.
And no splinters to show for it, hey?
No, nothing. Yeah, no arrows in hands like you see in horror stories.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
But yeah,
horrible. I'd hate that to happen.
had some fun, and yeah, that was probably that start of that sort of journey. And then what stuffed me was we were in that town at the same time, and we get up early and go hunting. And every morning I'd see these ute loads of pigs coming in on these, with utes and pigs everywhere hanging off the back and dogs hanging off the back. And I thought, oh, that's me.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
just a full thing and went home and said I'm getting a pig dog. So yeah, and still doing it now.
You still run the dogs now?
Yeah, still got an old dog now, and the oldest boy's pretty hooked on it. So
Yep.
yeah, still chasing the fin, not as hardcore as what we used to, but yeah. But I like to dabble in everything, as you know. I've got a bow now, so I had another recurve because my boss at the time at work, he was in the archery club here, and he sort of called me into getting another one, and I sort of didn't want to. I said, oh, I couldn't be bothered flinging arrows and whatever, but then I eventually bought one. had a bit of a dabble in it, then had a shoulder reco, and didn't say I got depression, but for anyone out there who does get a shoulder reco, it takes a long time to recover. So I
Hmm.
couldn't even lift the rifle or anything like that. So I semi got, I sort of got a bit down with it and said, oh, I'll sell it. So I sold that, thinking I could never shoot a bow again. Got out of that, and I mean, it's 100% now.
Yeah.
And long story short, that bow come up for sale. So that was my original bow. Come up for sale, and I said to me, "Good mate, do you want to buy a bow?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll buy it." So he bought it off the other friend in town here, and
How good.
left it there for a couple of years. And then I've ended up back with it for my youngest boy. So my mate said he was going to sell it, so I said, "Well, I'll buy it back off you for me young fella to get him out of the house."
Even better. That's so good.
So, yeah,
On the shoulder stuff, I mean, that's actually something that you do hear of a little bit. People, yeah, something happens along the way, whether it's because of archery or something else, where they get an injury and they can't go through. I mean, there is some pretty interesting ways that you can get around it with your mouth tabs and stuff like that for some of the people that go pretty crazy. But what did the recovery process look like for you, and how long was it before you could pick a bow back up?
it was a couple of years before I attempted to.
Mm,
Like I tried, if you know what I mean, but it was more just getting your mobility back and being scared to do anything. We have a lot of on the ground. There's a lot of doors you pull, like these levers you pull for doors, and you just just all that sort of stuff. Like I was that bad, I couldn't pick up a cup of coffee because my
yeah.
shoulder was that
Wow.
bad.
Yeah.
And then I just said to my boss one day, I've got to go and get an operation, and went to Brisbane and had the full. I had the three snap tendons and my rotator cuff and a bicep tendon gone.
Yeah. Wow.
So I've got a little piece of someone else in me from somewhere in America. They send over a piece of cartilage from a deceased person and
Yeah.
renewed the DNA and sew it into your shoulder. And it's pretty complex.
Yeah. Definitely. They
Um,
use the anchor
but
points and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty
yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
titanium anchor point and sew it all in, and pretty hardcore. But a few other blokes in town have had that operation that I know. It's only a little town, but that's why I said to them, stick with it because you'll go through hell
Hmm.
where you think you're useless, but you come out the other side. And that like an hour, I think it was the next day out of surgery, they send you to a physio, and he's
Yeah.
moving his shoulder, and I'm sort of looking at him trying to kill him. You know what I mean? Because you're all puffed up, and I'm like, holy smoke, like you can't, you know what I mean? I'm just out of an operation. He's like, yeah, bend this and do this, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, fair enough. But yeah, it was more they do the in the shower, the figure of eight, like you lean over and you do like a draw a eight,
Hmm.
draw the eight number, just draw at the start of it. And then just a door. They have a funny little thing you put on the door, which helps you. You pull with one hand, and it has a little handle, and that's sort of
Yeah.
getting your motion. And I won't go through all the exercises, but it
No,
was
but it's
like
just
that.
trying to get range of motion back. Yeah, I've had
Yeah,
friends
100%.
do it in the gym, for instance, like snap the
Yep.
just a mixture of different things in the shoulders, and then have to get full
Yep.
full shoulder recon, like what you did with the anchor tie points and everything, and you come back without being able to lift the arm even to 90 degrees,
Yep.
sort of thing. And
Yep.
yeah, it's crazy to see. It does take time, but 12 weeks or so, and you can have full range of motion back. You can have that arm overhead and lifting it up and have full mobility again. So it is definitely, I mean, obviously see yourself a physio if you can, and see if it is
Oh,
if there's a
100%.
tear and whatever else. Like if it's a workaround, I've definitely, I mean, even right now, I hurt my neck at the gym the other day and still just waiting to get that fixed. But that's going to a physio and working through that stuff to make sure that when you do draw your bow, it's not a painful process. Because
Yeah.
yeah, working through that pain is not necessarily the best thing to do either. It can cause more issues.
And I did that with a young family, new in a job and whatever. So I just put up with it for 12 years. I did a
Mm,
carpentry apprenticeship with it, and I'd heard it years ago when I was I used to mule sheep and stuff out west when I lived out west, and that was it's probably more of a repetitive strain injury. Then I slipped on the stairs at home and cut my arm out to save myself, and that's when I did the most damage.
yeah.
But yeah, it's just and now I don't even think about it. But yeah, it's through that first 2 years, it was pretty. It plays mind games with you. I
Mm.
can see why people do get depressed, if you know what I mean. I
Oh,
didn't get depressed.
100%.
I just got down with myself because you can't do what you want to do.
Hmm.
And all through when the kids were little, I could never throw a tennis ball or any of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I just had to, wait till I was, long enough at work and in this job and stuff like that till it got that bad that I had to go and approach them. And the biggest thing, I turned around in the shower one day and I had no shoulder muscles. Look in the mirror, but I
Hmm.
didn't even realise was happening because I was compensating. I just had a big scallop in my back.
Atrophy. Yeah. Yeah.
When your muscles have just gone away, and that's when I just said, "Oh, I need to really do something about it."
Yeah,
But
definitely. Yeah, it's
glad I did.
I was gonna say it's
Yeah,
interesting. You don't appreciate your health until you lose it. Like that
yeah,
full
yeah.
functionality that you have, you don't realize how great, like how amazing we have it until you've lost that little
Mm.
bit. Like I've hurt my back a few times, and Jesus, it's debilitating, and all you want to do is be good again.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And that's the thing I'll say to people. the shit times only last a bit. It's shit while it's happening, but it does get better if you work on it. And
Yeah.
that's just a mind thing, being strong in your mind.
Yeah, 100%. So what took you up north? What got you guys going from Vicky up to there?
So I'll give you. I'm not going to talk for hours on it, but yeah, born and bred in Vicky, and yeah, fly fished from a young age for trout.
Yep.
Like it's an awesome area. But like I'd say to my young mates that I've got there now, real good mate, and I say you just spoiled because like we'd go out. I shot one sambar hind in my whole time hunting, and we'd spend a lot of time in the bush and
Hmm.
seen a couple of stags out of the car run across the road. But that's not like what it is now. And then yeah, just tried, and that we have this little joke that we with our old boys that we always say if we seen deer shit, we'd slap each other on the back because that was awesome if we seen some shit. And things have dramatically changed now.
Yeah.
Whether it's fires or whatever it is, but I said to my mate goes, oh yeah, you'll see heaps. I went down once and he said, you'll see heaps on the drive, and I said, bullshit. And like in there, we seen like 14 just driving in the car, and I'm like,
Yeah.
far out,
Wow.
this is unbelievable. But I can talk about that later, but I see this side where there's so many. I think they're losing a bit of respect for the animal, if you know what I mean.
Mm,
Like people are a bit cowboyish, and I mean, I'm only speaking for myself, but yeah,
yeah.
you just still have a bit of respect for them. And I think when there's so many, that we get it down the lines of where I was talking a while ago last year, where I say we used to have wild everything, and now the greenies and that are turning it to everything's feral. So everyone's getting it in that mindset, like from a
Hmm.
young age, and they're teaching kids that this is feral, 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 where it's a resource.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
and that's what I try to say to people now. The minute you can label something as feral, then it's got a target on it straight away, and it's not managed. People are like, oh, they're only feral, and you see it on the posts on social media all the time. But that's for people to judge. But it's always people going, oh, she shot a few ferals for the cocky or a farmer and stuff like that. Where it's yeah, to me they're always wild. Every magazine we have a wild deer magazine. We don't
Yeah,
have a feral.
exactly.
We don't have a feral deer magazine from Berkey. We have a wild deer magazine, and it was always wild buff. And I'm a passionate reader, so I just bought every sport and shooter
Yeah.
under the sun. Every book that was available when you were a kid for knowledge
Mm.
was the main thing.
I think it's a
Um,
perspective change as well, right? Like once you see that side of, okay, you do only get one opportunity in a hunt or a day or whatever it is, versus when you're going hunting, you have endless opportunities, not endless, but they're happening regularly throughout the morning. Like it does change your whole perspective on hunting in general. I think like I was probably fortunate that I started with it being very hard going in the sense of you'd get one opportunity one day, maybe even for one weekend, and that was an incredible weekend. So then when you start to see it, when you're going hunting for a lot of game, for instance, like heavily density population parts of Australia, you really appreciate how amazing that is.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm super lucky where I am now. But yeah, and that's what I mean. Earlier on, it was so hard. Like we'd go and spend all week in the bush, which was great. For not a lot of full driving, but we'd full drive to the place and camp with mates and
Hmm.
hunt and stuff like that. But it wasn't until I left, and probably 10 to 15 years later, that numbers started to explode. So I sort of, and then that's when I made the decision. It was too big a town for me, if you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
I sort of had an analogy of everyone knew you were having a shit before you had it. So it was time for me to leave.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And so that moved you up north then with work and whatever
Yeah,
else.
so and I was always I was just only a meat worker. I never had a trade, if you know what I mean. I used to work at the
Hmm.
meatworks, so yeah, I was a slaughterman at the meatworks for years and years, and then I just started asking some of the meat inspectors had they ever been up north and worked, and a few of them had been to Mackay and Townsville and that sort of place. So I just didn't really know where to go, or was like pack up your gear and just jump in the car and leave. So it was a bit of a just sight unseen, just go and see what happens. And at the
How
time, my
good.
mate was living in Townsville, and he's a industrial lecky, and he'd come home. He's the one I used to hunt with for years, and we all grew up together.
Hmm.
And I seen him, I drove past and seen him and called in, and he said, "Oh, I'm living in Townsville at the moment." And I said, "Well, I'm just about to leave to go up north for somewhere." I said, "I'll take you to." I said, "I'll give you a free trip. I'll take you to Mackay." I had my heart set on Mackay
Yeah.
because a mate had lived there for a bit and whatever. And then we got to Mackay, and I thought, oh, I can't leave you on the side of the road just to get yourself there. So I went to Townsville, drove him to Townsville. He put us up for a couple of days, and he used to live with a couple of girls in a house. And I said, well, we'll just stay for a couple of days. And then I found some accommodation and had to bum around because it's very seasonal up there with the jobs like
Yeah.
meatworks and trying to get a job at a motel or somewhere just to fill in. Went and registered and all that sort of jargon. But yeah, a couple of weeks later, they got the phone call to go in and start. So I spent
How
three
good.
years yeah, it was pretty easy. It was good fun. It was good, life changing in a way. Like totally different climate, and the rain's phenomenal. If you've ever been in tropical rain, it's unbelievable
Definitely.
compared to like northeast Victoria and stuff. Like with nothing to get 8 inches overnight in a storm,
Yeah.
and you can drive around the next day. So it was pretty cool. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We stayed there for 3 years, and then decided I needed a tree change, and ended up in Emerald labouring for a fencer. Started fencing there, and met my wife. Then long story, went to Condamine, had a feedlot. I sent the wife back to uni because she'd nearly finished, or wasn't my wife then, but sent my fiance back to uni and made her finish her teaching degree.
Yeah.
And then you got to do country service with any of those sort of jobs, police force, all that sort of stuff. So
Hmm.
first posting was Cunnamulla,
Yeah.
good
Well.
old Cunnamulla. But I loved it. It was great if you're a hunter and a pig hunter, and
Oh yeah,
roos
of
and
course. Yeah.
stuff, and just great, good country. Like it's sandy country, and then you get black soil on the rivers, and so I'm not going to babble on forever, but yeah, spent 3 years there and was loved it. And then we were having our first child, so I said, well, we better move back to somewhere near closer to your parents, somewhere a bit more accessible. So ended up back in Emerald, and then I applied to a heap of jobs. I was 30 then, and
Yeah.
I hadn't done a trade or anything. I've always laboured. I'm still labouring now. My days off, being an idiot, but um, uh, I like to work.
Yeah.
So I applied for a heap
Labor of
of
love, hey?
labour of love. Well, if you want good things, you got to work for it. That's the way it
Yeah.
is these days. So, uh,
Exactly.
if you work your ass off, you can have good things.
Um,
Ended up getting an apprenticeship as an adult apprentice as a carpenter. Did 7 years as a
mhm.
carpenter, and then ended up in the mines. Had a few more kids, and ended up in the mines.
Yeah,
So I've
that's
been there
awesome.
13 years underground.
That's very cool.
And that's about sort of me. Yeah, just still kept up. Probably didn't do enough fishing and stuff like that. I probably would say to anyone, if they move to a new place, have a good look around. And I mean, you don't have to. A lot of people aren't forgiving with their information, but just have a look. I probably didn't do that, knowing that you didn't know there was Saratoga here or anything like that. I sort of
Mm.
just focused on pig hunting and all that sort of stuff, and didn't have a real good look around of what's there. But for anyone who does move to a new town or somewhere like that, have a good look around of what's available, because I'm sort of playing catch up now.
I think it's also a good way to meet some like-minded people, right? Getting out and talking about the outdoors and figuring out where the accessible parts are close by home. It's definitely a
Yeah,
good way to meet good people,
and it takes a while to you can get a network in a new town and all that sort of stuff. But
build the trust and everything. Definitely.
yeah, that's right, that's right. So we had 3 kids now, 3 boys, they're nearly adults now, and then but I dabbled in. I love dog trapping is my main thing. I love trapping dogs, so I got to learn off a couple of good fellas to trap dogs, and that'll be all part of the management when we get talking about the deer management.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, let's get into it. So, I mean,
Yeah,
now more than ever, I mean, we've got more hunters on my family block than we ever had. So between me, my brother, my dad, my brother-in-law, my cousin's husband, and him and his group, and then also there is now the farmers let some of their friends on. But we really don't have that much herd there. We've got 20 or so deer. I mean, on a good, the most I've ever seen is probably like a mob of 20. And then over, let's say, 4 or 5 little patches where they like to hang out, you'll probably see a 4 or 5 group sort of thing. And so as a concept, I'm like, well, given that there's now a lot more hunters on there, to manage and to make sure that the herd doesn't dissipate and run off onto the neighboring blocks, or make sure that it doesn't disappear in general. Like, and this obviously goes for everyone, not just my situation. It just works out well right now that this is the situation I'm in. But how do you start to manage a herd to make sure that you've got longevity in that herd, make sure that you're getting good heads coming in year after year, but then on top of that, making sure that you're not scaring them off, so your block is a forever hunting block as well.
yeah. So obviously my situation would be different, a lot bigger acreage and all that sort of stuff. And
Hmm.
I sort of not with Leicester, the Leicester story comes in and stuff like that. But I sort of gave a proposition to the property owner, and that's a long story because I'd moved here and getting back to Victoria, never shot a stag, so I just left Victoria, having shot one deer.
Yep.
And that was it. And then eventually I started pig hunting with a couple of fellas, and then one day a gentleman said, "Oh, there's deer on this farm down the road," and I sort of said, "Oh, bullshit." Like, in the middle of nowhere. And he goes, "No, there's deer down there." And I said, "Oh, well, do you reckon they'd let me have a look one day?" And anyway, he said, "Yeah, I'll ask them." Anyway, a month later, I'll go to the dentist, and then the fella that I said that there was deer there, and he goes, "Oh, there you go, Sean." I said, "Yeah, good." He goes, "Oh, those people said you can come and have a look if you like."
How
And I'm just like,
nice.
"Yes, how good's that?" Like, but and then long story short, I went there once, shot I haven't got the stag to show you, but you'll see it one day. The antlers, like, drove in there and not knowing anything. You know what I mean? Like, I'd never even probably seen it, had a stag in the scope or anything like that.
Hmm.
Drove on the property, seen a couple of stags down on the flat, and drove to this lagoon, and then all I could see was these white antlers, like about a whole mob of 12 antlers, above this bank sort of thing on this lagoon, and just like, holy shit! But the wind was blowing flat out behind us, and they sort of took off. So we drove around, and I said to the fellow, I said, "You just keep driving. I'm going to bail out on the run because they just look at the car. It's a bit like a lot of deer species that you drive around. Like the minute you stop the car, I'll get out that bolt. But if you
Yeah.
just keep driving, they'll just sit there and look." So I bailed out behind a big tree and told him to keep driving, and then had a look and just looked for the biggest set of antlers that I could find, because you can imagine what it was like. Never had seen a stag or been near a stag in my life. And then I
Yeah.
was 30 something, and then just went split second. Oh, there's the biggest one. Boom, shot it, and
Uh-huh.
sort of the rest was history. Went and thanked them, and then rang him up one day and said, would they be interested in me coming on? With paid hunters, and obviously everyone signs an affidavit for the side of it if you hurt yourself, like all that
Mm.
sort of stuff, like insurance and stuff like that. So I was lucky. I got onto a management plan. I'm not going to say where I got it from, but I did up a full management plan, obviously because they're classed as a pest in Queensland. So
Hmm.
I might pick some nerves here with some people, but that's just the better way to do it, so
Yeah.
that they can't come in, the government can't come in and say we're going to wipe these out, even though, because you don't have any say if it's your property or not, or the property owners. But if
Yeah,
you
because
show,
the concept there, to give a bigger picture, is that if the owner is not showing that they're doing anything to manage that herd, the government can say, well, you're not doing anything, we're going to overrule you and come in anyway.
so if you read those statistics, those laws, it's that you have to manage pigs, wild dogs, cats, even cats and all that stuff. You're meant to manage it on your property. So I done up a property management plan,
Hmm.
and you can keep a diary and all that sort of stuff. Submitted it to them, and they were happy with it. They signed it, and then yeah, sort of the rest is sort of history. Then that's the biggest thing, is getting on to somewhere.
Mm.
But then also it was a huge learning curve for me, if you know what I mean, because I've never really, like, never really seen rooster antlers or proper deer antlers. So yeah, it was sort of, I got a rough idea, or had from reading books. Books aren't everything, but the shape and whatever. So yeah, I just started going there, and then I just was ruthless on, because there was some terrible heads. There was like 30-inch heads with a little 12-inch head on one side,
Hmm.
perfect little stumpy on one side with an antler, and then I just started shooting everything. I even spotlight at night, which is a bit easier.
So
It just took
all
me
the Mong heads, essentially anything that didn't have good
everything,
genetics.
yeah, just no, anything that looked shit, and there was a bit of a crab claw effect, like a bit of samba style, the opposite way with samba. So anything that I seen, we just shot, we just annihilated,
This
and
is
obviously
rooster too. I don't know if we actually
that's rooster,
confirmed that,
yeah,
but yeah, this is
yeah.
rooster
So
deer.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yep. So they're opposite to samba. But they do throw back a lot to that other style, samba style. One antler is the samba style, and but, they look the closest to them, and they've got the same
Mm.
antler structure. Yeah, and then just slowly, continually. And the biggest thing for me is, what do you charge and what do you do and all that sort of stuff. But more for me was to get on there, know the property, start just shooting the crap out of everything that was, crappy.
Hmm.
But then I run into the problem of, like, I'm not going to go through every hunt or whatever, but a young fellow who's my real good mate now was travelling here, and another mate said, "Oh, do you think you could let him on?" And this is the hard part about starting a new block or something like that. You get the I mean, people start to find out, and you get inundated with, can I come and can you come, and you got to be really careful. That's what I say. You got to be super careful who you let on. And I always said that, no dickhead factor. If you bring someone on and they're a dickhead, you don't come back either.
No,
Um,
yeah,
and that, and that,
you're,
that went for all the boys,
uh-huh.
all what I call the famous boys that are coming up. Like, and that's what I said on you. Bring your wanker on, you don't come back.
Yeah.
And because it affects me. It
Mm.
affects my relationship with the owner and all the bullshit that goes with it. Like, and I'm sure farmers get the shits with everyone ringing them every week and trying to come on. And there's always someone on the place. So that's the
100%.
other that's the other mindful thing that I say to people is that, do the right thing. I take bread and milk out every time I go. That sort of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it all adds up and it all helps. And I've been super lucky now. It's 11 years, I think, now that I've been doing it. But yeah, I can go sort of through the start. So the biggest thing I found when that young fella came up, he was probably more savvy with the deer than me, because he's a samba hunter and been doing it for years. But he said, "Oh, there's no young deer here. There's no, you could say, and there wasn't a lot of does. Like, so I would
Hmm.
say there might have been 30 or 40 originally, like that I've seen. But obviously that's only what's sort of around the house. But if you notice, if you let a lot of those deer go, like the chital and all that, they're really magnetised to the house. They
Mm.
just, where you first release them, they're sort of a bit attached. and I know where Lester let him go, but I ended up getting the original photos of him, which was cool. I did his
How
lawn
good.
one day. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I worked 2 and 2 together, and I would have upset a lot of people because when I first went, and this is what you'll do if you're going to do this, the management side to these people who are listening is that you're going to upset a lot of people because we had a few locals that were coming on and there was no management. They'd shoot a stag or a doe and do whatever, just shoot willy nilly. So I just
Hmm.
said to the property owners, if you're going to make this work and you want to have a go at it, everyone has to leave. You've got to kick everyone off.
Yeah.
So you've got to start from scratch, get rid of everyone, no access. And that was great for me because no one's allowed on the place from when I started, and no one
Hmm.
had really hunted the pigs and all that sort of stuff for 18 months. So the first few years was quite good for catching pigs.
For the pigs, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. Um,
And the
yeah,
concept there is because you're purely letting the deer grow for a few years. Is that
yeah,
why you're
but
getting rid of everyone?
yeah, and where I'm getting at is look, I don't think my deer get. I think 34 is the biggest. Look, and then it's not about scoring. You know what I mean? Look, it's more the challenge and all that sort of stuff. But everyone resorts back to big heads. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But you do want to do that. Like I did it for me of that, and that everyone you want to shoot the biggest head because it's the most mature animal, and in most cases it's the oldest animal and the most mature animal. But you don't want to be shooting 26s and 27s because 2 years later they're a 30 or a 33. That's
Hmm.
sort of that principle. So there was no, you can't manage that if no one's managing that. What's a deer in someone's eyes? Like a 20 might jump up and people go, oh, stag, awesome, boom, shoot it. But he's still got 4 years to get to a 30 where he could have been a 30.
Yeah.
In that regard. So if you don't have control over it, it's hit and miss because people are just shooting what they can shoot.
Hmm.
Um, because they mightn't have they're not thinking of that biggest animal or letting them mature. They're not able to gauge that. They're just like, most people, if they're not a deer hunter, I would say that, or not a passionate hunter, is just like, oh shit, there's a deer, boom, shoot it. Oh, I've shot a deer.
Yeah.
But it's not ideally what you want. And
Yeah.
that's what I'd be worried about your block. But with totally different, a number of people on there and stuff like that, and not having a value on them. Like if the auntie and uncle haven't put a value on as a per animal, like I said to you, I can go there and shoot 10 for the day.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I think most people are like everyone who's there is pre-vetted by them in a sense, so it's good. But it's also okay. Well, we don't have a massive herd there, so how do we make sure that we do keep them there for a long time?
Yeah,
Is
so that's
essentially, and I
probably the
mean, this
biggest.
is the same concept for everyone. I mean, many people hit me up about fallow where they've got a few does on their block, but they don't necessarily have the males apart from during the rut, which is obviously seasonal to how those deer work and operate. So it's like, okay, well, how do you manage those species to make sure that the boys do come in and that they've got a continuous access to that moving forward?
Well, if you don't have does, you'll never have boys. That's sort of pretty.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if you wipe out the does, you won't have any boys. They'll just travel elsewhere.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's probably something that you probably need to get on to the other people on the block and say, hey, there's a lot of us here.
Let's come to
You,
an
you know,
agreement.
let's come to an agreement where you only hunt stags in the rut or whatever it is, but you try not to shoot. The try not to shoot mature females, but people say, oh, you should shoot. I have a policy of not shooting older females because they're the smart ones. So if
Mm,
you shot all the old females, I know it's a culling thing, an age thing, but if you shoot all the old females, then I think you dumb them down a bit.
yeah.
Those old girls are 10 years old or 8 years old, they're on the money.
Yeah.
So they're teaching the younger ones not to be dumb. When
They're
it
the
comes
ones that
towards
will honk on you. They're the ones that will keep
yeah,
everyone alive
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
maneuver
yeah,
the,
100%.
the whole
They're the
batch.
first ones. Yeah, they're the first ones to spot the alarm bells and all that sort of stuff. So I try
Mm,
not to shoot real old does. I try to shoot females that haven't had for meat anyway. They're on their first fawn or something like that, which
yeah.
is a bit easier.
So going back to you essentially found that you had only no young stags, only either old stags and you obviously had some
And does
does.
or
Yeah.
hinds, does, hinds, whatever people want to call them. People get upset when you call them does or hinds, depends which species. I'll call them hinds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I had a couple of hunts with him, he shot a nice stag the first time, and then he had a lot more sense with the deer than me because it was a learning curve for me because I just left Victoria without having hardly any experience. So the whole thing for me has been a whole educational learning about rooster
Mm,
and species and what to shoot and what should happen and all that sort of stuff in the seasons, and they differ from everywhere. If you know, I mean, there's quite a few pockets of rooster herds which are slowly being decimated at the moment from the ownership, and we can go into that later, but. Smithy would have told you about that, like the Collinsville herd was taken, that land sold, and
Yeah.
So yeah, there's not a lot of accessible rooster blocks in, other than the ones that are let go and behind the fence or whatever to have a shot.
Yeah.
So that makes it a bit hard. But yeah, and when he rang me up and he just said, look, when we're talking, he said there's something wrong. Like there's something wrong with the mix because there's no fawns, there's no half-grown deer or anything like that. You would only see a mob of does or mature stags or say 12 inches or something like that. He said there's something totally wrong with the makeup of the herd. So I had to go back and have a think about what's going on. But then eventually, once I started going out there, you would see wild dogs, and people might think I'm wrong, but I'll 100% say it's a bit like hunting sandbag. If you got a wild dog pack in your system, that they love deer. They love chasing deer. They love eating deer, and they decimate like we found stags that have been killed because the rooster will fight to the death nearly. If you know what I mean, like they bash each other that bad. You can see them at the end of the rut there, limping and full of scars and no hair and whatever. So I was finding that dead stags, and they'd all been chewed under the balls and the bum and all that because they were too weak to get up, and the pack of dogs had
Mm.
found them.
Yeah.
They were
Wow.
killing us. I was finding stags that were dead, and no young ones, a few fawns that had been chewed up.
Yeah.
Yes,
I guess it's
and I,
easy reward for the same amount of effort they'd go after a rabbit
oh,
or something like that, right? So
well, it's same thing for anything with nature. Whatever's
mm,
weak or vulnerable gets smashed first before you have to chase something that's 100% fit.
yeah.
So then I went into sort of damage control. I trap rabbits and all that sort of stuff, and that property owner doesn't bait, which is a good thing for me for having dogs. So
Hmm.
I sort of said, well, what do I do? So my mates, the one that was telling me about the management, said that my brother's a trapper, like he's a pro trapper with the government. He said, why don't you maybe invite him up for a bit to do a stint, which helps the farmer out, if you know what I mean. And I said he could shoot
Yeah.
a cull stag. They know their deer. So I said, if you come up for a week or whatever and start trapping, you can shoot a cull for that. He was already in Queensland doing a trapping job.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I sort of, and I love being in the bush, and that was my other avenue. Is that when he came, he gave me a couple of traps, and I went out with him for a week and trapped some, and then I just kept it going from there. So every time I went out, I'd set traps.
Yeah.
Got the property owner's son to start trapping, which was pretty good for me because I don't have
Give
to be
us
out
give
there
us a
all the time.
rundown of the trapping and your system that you use
Uh,
for that.
so general wild dog trapping, if you know, it's foothold trap, four coil, not rubber jaw in Queensland. There, it's called a laminated offset, so it has a relaxation gap in the trap. So,
Hmm.
the big bad fallacy of the old dog trappers that won't like what I say, but I believe that the jaw traps, it's the same as when you're trapping rabbits, whatever like that, it actually breaks their leg. So you hear this
Mm.
old fallacy of the dogs chew their leg off. They
Oh
don't
yeah.
chew their leg. It's when it breaks the bone, because I've seen foxes do it. When that bone breaks in that front leg, it's actually just piercing the hole every time they move. It's piercing the skin.
Of course, so rips the
If you know what I
rips the
mean.
skin
So then
instead.
they just
Yeah.
it hits the skin, and eventually they just pop their leg out. But they all say that they've chewed their leg off, and I'll let them run with that if they want to run with that. But I don't see that from trapping for the last 8 or 10 years. I see especially foxes. It does happen.
Mm.
So they say being with the Humane Society and all that, the traps are all set. So rubber jaw in New South Wales, Victoria, where we have what's called a relaxation gap. It's called an offset, so that there's a certain space when you catch them by the foot that it doesn't, cut the circulation off their leg and all that.
Hmm.
Shock springs, they have like a shock absorber on them and all that sort of jargon to make it more humane when you catch the animal.
Yeah. But what about in regards to like your methodology for laying a trap? What are you kind of looking for? Do you use a
Um,
scent of some sort
Yeah,
or yeah.
yeah, which is mainly I could go. I could spend another whole podcast with you, and I'm not the world's greatest trapper, if you know what I mean. Like, but I get by. But yeah, it's more watching the videos, and like I said, I had a 10-year jump from having eventually two mates, one in town here, not close, that I could just make a phone call and say, and same as my other friend, you know what I mean. So I sort of got 10 years worth of knowledge in
Mm.
the first couple of months, which makes a huge difference, and that's probably a big thing for all people if you can get onto someone and piggyback and get their knowledge. Knowledge is everything.
Oh,
Yeah, they've
100%.
already done the hard yards. So
Yeah.
you can drive around for 10 years and make all the fuck ups that you want in the world, and you know what I mean. Like they've already done that.
I mean, it's the whole methodology of this podcast, right? It's why it's
Yeah,
where it's at, where it
that's
is now.
exactly right.
Yeah.
So old dog trappers are secret, but I don't need to be secretive. Your own dog peeing poo is what I catch 90% of my dogs on, and there's all different, people. There's all different styles and different ways. Clark McGee's a good one to watch. Wild
Hmm.
Country Adventures, he's great, but
Yeah.
some of the stuff I don't like what he does, but that's what he does. He's good at what he does. everyone has their own little, it's the same as bow hunting, and everyone has their own little, or shooting, their own little trick, or what
Yeah.
they think works. So if it works for you, you run with it. But yeah, it's more just finding. 90% of people wouldn't know if you drive around and have a look at, buffle bushes, like bushes and stuff. They usually got a white dog turd on them. But I would say 97% of the people in the world would drive straight past it and wouldn't even know the wild dogs had a poo on it, or it's called a scent post.
Mm.
So that's what you're looking for. Dog prints mainly, fresh
Yeah.
dog prints, and yeah, finding a good spot with a bush or a log, and yeah, set your trap up and having that distance. You want the dog to smell you. So yeah, I'm saying it works for me, but the length of the dog's neck from its chest to under its chin is sort of that foot, 18 inches.
Mm.
That's where your trap needs to be, out under their feet.
Yeah.
They need to
Okay.
be smelling your lure or your piece of dog poo on the ground, but the trap needs to be where their feet are, because you don't want the trap right, where they're smelling.
Under that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Your target area is their front feet, not their nose. So
Hmm.
you have that distance, and yeah, like I said, watch plenty of YouTube videos if you're going to get into it. Great hobby, great challenge.
Mm.
Yeah, but yeah, and I love it. I love doing that. But that gives you another avenue of getting on places when you can't. Some places won't let you shoot, or there's other hunters there. But the minute you say that you trap dogs, you're on.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
definitely.
it
So you said you
gives you,
use your own dog's urine as a
yeah,
lure? Yeah, how good.
yeah. But I won't tell you how many liters of that I sell to Brisbane.
Uh,
In the post, there's vinegar. Uh,
yeah, wow.
yeah, it's pretty mad. Yeah, well, I'd say it's not filthy, but it's pretty out there. If you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But yeah,
definitely.
then you can buy all the lures. I make my own lures and that out of the glands, but I'm not going to go into that. Like I said, that's another podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
If you
No, that's
if
cool.
any
So essentially, you
is ever
find
interested,
find where they're already going as their marking territory, essentially, and then you're just marking it
yeah,
as if
yeah,
your
and
dog
you
has
just
come in and made their new mark.
exactly right. That's all you're doing. So
Yeah,
that a dog's either sex, food, or territory. Really,
territory.
that's it. You
Yeah,
take your dog for a walk down the street in Brisbane and watch how many poles it pisses on.
yeah, exactly.
It's territory. So that's all it is. You're trying to introduce a different smell, or and the dog goes, oh, holy shit, who's in my place? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I'll mark over that, and hopefully he stands on your pan at the same time, which is a hard one too. Like I say to people, you've got a 50 mil, pan of the trap that big, and he's got to stand that in all of Australia,
Yeah,
to catch him. So it takes a little bit.
definitely.
Um,
Bit of
but yeah,
mastery to it.
if
No, that's awesome.
anyone's got spare time, and like I say, any of the listeners, it's a great sport or great hobby to helps the farmers. I do get paid by the farmers, so I've had to start charging, because like sometimes you're doing 700 or 800 kilometres a week every
Hmm.
day. You're doing 100 k's a day doing your trap run.
Yeah,
Yeah, so but you've got to prove yourself too. So if you're only doing
no,
it for yourself,
exactly.
it doesn't matter. But I started doing it for farmers and cattle studs here, and yeah, so I still get that call up every year to go out and do a week or two.
That's
Uh,
incredible. And then so
so we'll get back to, sorry, the deer, mate. There's
no,
so
it's fine.
much. Yeah, so I said
It's
we
good.
could do
It's
it.
good. Like, yeah, this
We could
this unpacking is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, so then they all left, and I thought, oh shit, I've got to try and control these dogs, because I think that was the contributing factor. You could be driving along and you would see a dog chasing deer right up its ass, flat out on its
Wow.
heels across the road in front of you, flat stick. They just loved them, like it was crazy, and the amount of dogs on the place, obviously because he doesn't bait because he's got working dogs.
Hmm.
Uh, that was the start. So I sort of got him. I started, and then I was leaving the traps out there set for him to check and his son to check, and then the son started doing it. And the other contributing factor was there's a property owner that has a helicopter,
Yep.
and when he does his skits from property to property, if he sees a dog, he shoots it. So
Hmm.
it took a while, but you went from seeing dogs in the daytime to now where I've seen two dogs in 18 months of
Yeah.
hunting.
Wow. It's a big
Where
difference, right?
yeah, and the difference in the deer numbers, pretty much wouldn't say exploded, but yeah, huge difference. But the factor in that too is they stopped coming around the house. So the
Mm.
hunting was quite easy, but now they've sort of spread out the most I've ever seen them, which alludes to you don't own them. So if they jump the neighbour's fence, then you don't have any control over that either, which happened this year.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I guess at the same time, it's interesting to see like you were bang on that it was the dogs that were obviously causing
Yeah,
that youth issue, essentially.
yeah, 100%. And then within 2 years, fawns, young ones, the whole lot, and these boys have come back quite regularly over the years, and they're just like holy smoke. And then yeah, and the difference in every head you see from me hammering them, the minute they look a bit shitty, because I can show you one head. Obviously, not where my heads are, but it looks like an awesome head, but you see it smaller on one side, like it's actually quite smaller antler. So
Hmm.
even though it'd be trophy to a bow hunter or something like that, I just take him out of the equation.
Yeah, so
Um,
you're essentially just saying, okay, well, what is a good genetic? How do we look like good? How do good genetics look in this species of deer? And if there's
yep,
anything that's irregular compared to what we call our good quality, we're getting rid of it.
yep, straight away.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so,
And
are your deer, DeRusa, they hang around for a few months during the rut, don't they? It's not just a
yeah,
few
yeah, yep,
days.
yeah, it goes for a couple of months, and it's seasonal dependent, and
Mm,
and it's a hard one where I've well, my dad was out there helping them out for last year and this year, and like they raw for 2 months on and off, but not every hind cycles. I think people have this mindset that on the 14th of April, like for fallow, boom, everything's going to be croaking and all the hinds are in season. Well, it's a seasonal 21-day thing for animals.
mm,
So today, and we proved it when we filmed with the boys for the season and stuff like that. Like one day we went out and it was just going off. The next day you couldn't hear a pin drop.
yeah.
So to me, all those hinds had finished cycling. So
Mm,
you get it in dribs and drabs, and I think from now all the big boys just come in and do their job, and then they sort of get out, if you know what I mean. And then you just
yeah.
got the dribs and drabs, the younger stags, or once the older boys are knocked up a bit, they just get out. They don't. I don't think they stick with. They're not like reds and that where they just stick with their harem. They're just
Mm,
going from mob to mob sort of and having a fight. And
yeah.
that's my view. And from what I've found here, it'll be different at other places. And obviously, I'm only speaking for where I am in central Queensland as well.
Hmm.
Uh,
In
mm,
regards to
but
like times a year, though, so obviously the head side of things, we're talking about genetics and trying to go after the genetic side. What else do you have kind of set in place regarding like the rest of the year? Because obviously your block, I think, mainly gets hunted only through the rut and not necessarily that
I
much.
still, I'm still out there with the gun, hunting pigs and stuff like that. So I do the meat animals, obviously, when I need some meat.
Hmm.
I can get. So I wasn't able to do that at first. I was too scared to do that. So we'd go out there and everyone was chasing meat and stuff like that. But when there was only a certain amount of does, what I found was maybe 30 or something like that. I think off Lester's original, when they let him go, it was 15 or something like that, and a couple of stags.
Hmm.
And I could really only pick, say, 30 does in a couple of mobs. And then that's what I said. I just said I'll concentrate on getting some young ones and getting rid of it every time going, when I was big hunting, I'd still shoot shit stags if I seen them
Yep.
and just cut up the meat for them, not waste the meat. Not, I won't eat the mature stags. I'll give it to the farmer because you've got a heap of dogs. So still
Hmm.
using the meat, not letting it rot. In the paddock, but yeah, just if I seen an opportunity where I seen a shit one, I'll smoke it straight away to just get it out of because you don't see that all the time in the rut.
Yep.
You don't see those target animals. Yeah, I got a bit off track, but yeah,
That's all right.
so just keep chipping away at at those, and then over the years, slowly you would see the younger deer, which the fawns and
Hmm.
stuff like that coming, and then you'd see yearlings, 2 year old spikers, which we'd never seen.
Yep.
So yeah, slowly, it's taken me 11 years to roughly get it to where it is now, where you see all those age groups.
Mm,
20-inch stags, spikers, 2 year olds, all that sort of stuff.
yep.
Yeah, but and the dog numbers haven't increased, which is a great thing.
So
But yeah,
in
then
in regards to you,
what I was
I was going to say for your
sorry,
shooting, then like with the once you got to the stage where you were happy with, okay, we've got enough of the young, or we've got a good mix. What was
yeah,
kind of the process? Like I know, for instance, Clark's stuff that he talks about. Like there's certain times of the year where you just don't shoot deer versus there's times of the year where you can shoot certain types. Only
yep,
like, is there a rule or a blanket principle that you kind of stuck to with that once you were somewhat happy with the size you heard?
yeah. So when I was saying I couldn't shoot meat, so I got it to where I could,
Hmm.
harvest some for meat, and obviously the farmer was seeing the numbers, so that's another thing. If it's dry, which it is now, what I mean, like he's asking, I'll come and shoot a few for
Hmm.
reduce the numbers, which broke my heart. Absolutely broke my heart to drive around, shoot does and stuff like that. But that's what it is. That's just, you just got
Yeah.
to get over it.
Yeah.
No, meat's wasted, obviously. Like, there's plenty of people that eat the meat. If I've got to go and do that, but yeah, I just try and chip away at a few, hinds every year and do it that way. And then if the boys come up and they want to pay or whatever, they shoot a meat animal and take it home. Anyone that hunts there, just so that it's just a management thing and keeping it in check, and so they don't explode because I
Mm,
wouldn't say they would explode, but there's an opportunity for them. But I think they're more spread out, like I found this year. Once they get to a certain amount of the numbers, they just go where they want to go.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, you got to get it to her, and that's what I said. I probably wouldn't have shot a meat animal for the first 5 years
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
before I was comfortable that there was enough young ones, and where he said, "Oh, it's dry," and there's a fair few deer getting around, and yeah, I suppose I've probably got the third number. Maybe there might be 90 does there now
Hmm.
at certain times.
Yeah. Wow.
Uh,
That's impressive.
and unlucky for you, like I went out the other night and I seen a shitload. a couple of big stags, and they've just come in, so it's obviously dried off where they'd just spread out, and yeah,
Yeah.
you can't find them everywhere. Like 50, 40 something thousand acres is a lot of place to
Oh yeah,
try
definitely. Big.
and find them. And we're all just going off that. Well, I really only hunt a couple of k's from the house, which you don't need to go anywhere else
Mm.
uh, during the rut. But yeah, they've obviously decided to come back in.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Yeah, I think from memory, like in regards to the concept that Clark used to follow, because they had reds. I think they actually had Rooster as well. So they had, yeah, no, they definitely did. So they had Reds,
yeah,
Rooster, and Fallow on their little Ridge Group block, and essentially the Fallow and Reds, because they're on the same schedules regarding like when you're born, when the fawns are born, etc. From November until the rut, you weren't able to shoot hinds unless it was an old hind that didn't have a fawn. During the
yeah.
rut, obviously, cull stags are like, go for it. And then if you get lucky enough to go for a big boy, then go for it, like the big old mature ones, like you're saying. But
Mm.
is there a deer during the rut that you're saying, okay, we're not touching those?
Probably hinds, especially because they've probably got young fawns, so that's how it works. They have their fawns. They have two different drops of fawns. I think one in late August, and then they'll have one around Christmas time. So the big boys
Hmm.
drop their antlers at Christmas, and the does are having their fawns around or just before Christmas. So
Yep.
that means during the rut, a few months later, they've all got fairly young, or it might be a January or February drop of fawns.
Hmm.
Obviously, that's seasonal and different areas. I'm not going to, I think, go right into it to
No, definitely.
work that
Yeah.
out. But yeah, and you'll hear me on the if we ever watch the season or whatever, I just say to them that not to shoot any hinds or whatever because they've got young fawns at foot. So yeah,
Mhm.
during the rut, it's just stags or cull stags.
But what about
Uh,
during the rut? Are you saying, okay, well, let's leave the 2 years alone. Let's leave anything that's got less than this many points on its head or something, for instance.
oh
So you
yeah, no,
think,
the boys are everyone's after the biggest one they can find during the rut, and that's what everyone comes for, I suppose. You're there for the atmosphere and all that sort of stuff. But if there's a cull stag and they want to go for it, you go for it.
yeah.
But the biggest, and I'm saying with the bow, it's hard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
They're wide. With a rifle, it's a little bit easier, but yeah, it's more. There's most people are coming and paying that money. Pardon me to shoot a trophy, so I just tell them what to shoot. I suppose, like after from
Mm,
the experiences, shoot the biggest one you can find.
yeah.
And the other thing is that what I tell people, and it should be for everyone, if you put the scope on the animal and you pull the trigger, you need to be happy that you pulled the trigger. If you're not happy, don't
100%.
pull. Because don't whinge later that that you're not happy with it because
Yeah,
you pulled the
exactly.
trigger. Same as an
That,
arrow. If you fling an arrow and you think, fuck, halfway that I shouldn't have done that, well, that's bad luck. It's gone. It's gone.
that doesn't make sense to me that someone would do that and complain. You've obviously had to say
Well,
that
they
because of
do.
experience. Yeah.
It does happen. Trust me.
Yeah. No, I
But
can
yeah,
imagine.
that's why I say you need to be, and I'll give them that reassurance. I say, yep, it's a shooter. Are you happy to shoot it? And if they shoot it, well, that's what you got.
Yeah.
Go home. Go home happy,
Yeah,
or
definitely.
pay the money, and go and get another one.
And then what about post rut then? So you've gone ahead, you've essentially opened up
So
the doors
yeah,
for everything but young heads and the hinds or the does during that time. Post
yeah.
rut, the boys are sticking around, they're trying to refeed. What are you doing there?
Yeah, so really, it's finishing. So August, September, so probably late September it's finished. Now I just leave them to their own devices, do a meat run because it starts to dry off now. Obviously, and if the farmer wants a few shot, then I'll go and do a meat run for does to reduce the numbers a little bit.
Hmm.
And it's all happy days with farmers. Once it rains, I mean the cows are eating green grass and the deer disappear or you can't see them, and it's just that you just got to manage that every year, like
Yeah.
the numbers and. But yeah, probably my season is now like looking. I used to be able to scout heaps for the velvet stags and find them, but I haven't
Hmm.
been able to find them for the last 2 or 3 years. So whether they're just moving somewhere else or, but yeah, it's time dependent too. Everyone's got a family and whatever. But yeah, I have a lot of game cameras out, heaps of cameras
Mm.
out for pics. But you can't sort of get a handle. They don't go back to the ones place. They might move up and down the creek for feed and all that sort of stuff. But obviously, the big boys all get together at this time of the year. They'll start to regroup and then they drop their antlers and they just feed and stick to themselves.
Yep.
And the does are still doing their own thing, just living until, then they sort of regroup and probably start to come out of the woodwork. April, I suppose, April, early May is when you start to see them sort of come back in.
Hmm.
But yeah, to me, everyone only hunts during that rut period, which is that 2 months, and that's it. And no one's, it's only me on the place.
Yeah.
And
So
like I said, mainly,
if you had to say like, okay, as a blanket statement, if I was trying to grow a herd and I did want to hunt year round still, would you say, okay, post rut, it's kind of until the or actually, how long are the
until they
fawns?
cast. Until they
Yeah,
cast,
until they
really.
cast, right? But how
Yeah,
long are the fawns reliant on the mums for?
8 months, I think, 8 or 10 months. I'm not a,
So if
I'm
they
not a.
if the reds and fallow are dropping in April, that makes it no, sorry, they're dropping in October, November, let's say. So you've got really until June the following year that you
Hmm,
shouldn't shoot
yeah,
any hinds then, right?
yeah, that's right. But a lot of ours is not day shooting either. If I want to do a meat run, I'll just go and spotlight. If you know what I mean, like, it's easy
Mm,
to up them under the spotlight. They're quieter if it's just a meat run.
have a look at them
But
for a
you can
bit and see what they've
have
got.
a good
And
look at them. You get a good
mm,
look at stags and stuff too, or and that's when you do spot a mongrel, you'll shoot it. That sort of style.
yeah,
But I more judge off most of the time how much he's hidden it in the grass and it's tiny. That's the other thing you got to be careful with when they've got
definitely.
really like to hide them because wedge tails love them too. So wedgies just hammer 'em. But yeah, more looking at the animal, and I've done it when we're having a cull or whatever. You'll see that you might have a yearling with it. It's still it's fawn or yearling fawn. So you're right to shoot it. It'll survive no problems. It's
Yeah,
only just following its mum around because mum's already pregnant and ready to go. This season's drop, so that's not a problem. But you just got to be mindful that if it's got like a tiny little calf the size of a dog or a fawn the size of a dog, you don't touch it.
yeah,
Don't shoot it. Well, that's an ethics thing, I suppose. Like,
yeah,
that's up to you, but that's how I do it anyway. Like, I just have a good look at what's there, and if you see that it's got a small fawn with it, you just drive on, go to the next one, because you already
definitely.
get that, and that's why I like to target those, 2-year-old or yearling hinds that are about to have a fawn,
Hmm.
and but they haven't. If you know what I mean? So you're not, yeah, obviously you're killing the fawn in them, but they haven't had a fawn. They don't have a fawn at foot. So yeah, that's why I sort of target them. And they're a lot nicer animal too. They're covered in fat, and
Definitely.
you know.
So I guess as a bit of a recap, and we'll keep going. I'm not shutting the
Yeah,
podcast
yeah,
off.
yeah. No, no,
It's
you're right.
like essentially, first concept is get rid of all your mong heads, essentially. So anything
Yep,
that doesn't have good genetics. Next
yep,
concept is to keep the ladies there for as long as possible until we've grown that herd a little bit, so you know that you've got breeders moving forward. Make sure that we're not shooting off the old does or
yep,
hinds.
yep,
And then if you're opening up and we're saying you can shoot everything moving forward, essentially we're saying obviously the males are shootable during the rut and then after the rut until they drop their antlers, in which case we then leave them.
mhm.
The girls we're only shooting from pretty much so when they drop their fawns
Probably more. Yeah, it's probably more now, like now, or
up
now up
until
until
now, right? It's
yeah,
kind of
up until
like
yep,
and obviously you risk the chance of shooting a pregnant doe or
yep.
hind at that
But
point, but essentially you've got that 6 month window from let's say April to October or 6 months after
yeah,
your rut
yeah,
season where you're shooting instead.
and I find it more ethical to shoot something that's even though it's pregnant. Like that's just the way it is. You're not leaving something to suffer on the ground
Definitely.
that's already a couple of months old and has to fend for itself from eagles and probably won't survive.
Yes,
So
yeah, but that's a
that's
pretty
just
good
something.
statement then, right? In general, it's like okay, so the girls are 6 months after the rut, the boys
Yep,
are the rut and 6 months after as well, and then essentially anything in between is either your yearlings that are not necessarily fertile yet, or
yep,
if there's a dry hind or doe, if you can tell the
yep,
difference with that, and
yep,
or a monghead is the in
yep,
between.
yep, 100%. And that's really what I base it on. And you got to get your herd to that stage where you can do that too. That's what I said. I wouldn't
Mm,
have shot it for 5 years until I was comfortable, and I didn't want to anyway because I was trying to breed them, get them to breed up. But I've shot a few spikers, you know what I mean, for meat and stuff like that. You know what I mean. And that's the other thing. You can't go too hard on your spikers if you're shooting.
you won't have boys in a few years' time.
Yeah, exactly right. So you got to. And it is management. Yeah, you don't have full control over it, but you just got to be. You be a cowboy at it if you want to reap the rewards.
Definitely, it's longevity, right? But the
And,
next
you know,
side
it
of
is.
oh, go on, sorry.
You're right. So, yeah, and the other thing is, a lot of people say, oh, you should let some go, and that's a touchy subject too, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people don't like you letting deer go, and farmer probably doesn't want to see more, but that's another thing. If it's a smart, well, I say it's probably a smart thing to do is try and get some decent genetics if you're going to do it, but I just haven't done that, so I sort of don't have huge length, but very
Hmm.
heavy style. But yeah, some people you talk to, and that's the thing. People say, "Oh no, it won't make a difference if you introduce, more genetics." But I sort of think it is because they've been there for 22 years, I think now, without any, influx
Yeah,
or genetics or something like that. But that would be another 10 years before you might see the rewards of that.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess the other whole side of this is obviously you've essentially come in and started. You've talked to the owners. You've got them set up on a system where you can essentially start running guided hunts from there, and then you
Yep.
continue that as a process and a relationship for many years. So going on to more of that element side of things, like what were the, I guess, the big touch points that you kind of went to them with as a starting piece, but then the other elements that we haven't really talked about regarding running a good outfitter, essentially.
Yeah. So more for me, it was the anything to do with farmers is money, obviously. So I could
Hmm.
using a resource, they get something out of it, but they're not making millions out of it either. So this is where I'm saying about the numbers. So if you're getting too many, where I'm probably getting to a stage now where they're at the tops, you know what I mean, for numbers,
Yep.
but they don't make thousands and thousands out of it. And you'll work that out. Most guys would tell you that. You know what I mean? Like you're only probably shooting 3 mature stags a year. So they're
Yep.
getting appearance fees now, where I was saying to you where I wasn't charging that. But yeah, before it was more word of mouth with mates when I first started. And then, I set a price with them for per stag and for culls. But lately I've just been culling everything myself and took that equation out. Unless people see that when you're having a hunt,
Hmm.
I used to charge a certain amount for, a cull stag. Let's just say it was $200 and whatever the stags are. And then, yeah, but it's quite hard to get close. Yeah, I mean, if you're out with a bow, you want to shoot a trophy. You don't want to shoot a cull unless the opportunity's there. You're not just chasing culls.
Yes.
So I sort of just kept wiping them off the planet and then come to an agreement with the owner. And the biggest thing I said, which sort of was my undoing, which I told you after about 10 years, was I wasn't charging a day rate. Like I wasn't
Mm.
charging a day rate for the hunters. And then we had a large number of guys there for a week, with the bows and got there for bow hunting's hard, but especially these deer
Yeah.
are wide. Like it's super hard. And I'm speaking from my area, and I try and keep them quiet, but they're just wide. Like you wouldn't believe. The Samba boys come up, from Victoria and just go, holy smoke, these things are next level. Like
Hmm.
on the money. They're just alert and just seem to know that you're there, regardless how much camo you want to wear. And you could be in invisible suit, they still seem to know that you're there.
No, something's up. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And no, it's not right. Um, but yeah, that's just a thing that you got to talk to the owners about. And then I went back to them this year, and I try and tell her who's coming for the next year. You know what I mean? I'll tell her how
Hmm.
many hunts and what dates and all that. So you're not intrusive and not upsetting them.
Yep.
You've got to give them a rough idea. And I still look after the place when they go away sometimes and that sort of stuff. That's a relationship you build up. That's the
Yep.
sort of the relationship you want to be building up. That hey, I want to look after it because when people go away, other people know that they're going away. So more on that,
Mm.
jumping the fence side of it. So
Yeah,
I try
definitely.
to I try to be there when they're not there, or
Yep.
someone be there when they're not there.
Yeah, smart
And
play.
that's people ringing up all the time wanting to get on, and yeah, that's the other thing you have to deal with as well.
Hmm.
People wanting to ring up and come on, can they shoot a deer and whatever, and yeah, you just got to get that trust with the owner, and you're number one, hopefully.
Yeah. So
Um,
the biggest thing was obviously monetizing it correctly. Like you said,
yeah,
the undoing
and I
was
wasn't,
essentially
and I
not
wasn't.
charging for just
Yeah,
being
and
there.
I wasn't because I didn't really want to. I don't want to charge that full. How to explain it? You're obviously a guide, but you're a guide to word of mouth or friends, so it's a bit more relaxed in camp.
Hmm.
And we still cook and do all that sort of stuff, but it's more the friendship and the circles, which you'll find the circles for me has increased huge. Like
Yep.
the amount of people that I've touched base with, and they know people that I know from Victoria that you wouldn't even know, and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, it was for
Hmm.
me. It wasn't anything to do with money. It was that I come to Queensland, had no properties to hunt, didn't have a clue, and sort of had to start from scratch to learn about this species of deer and get it to where it is,
Yep.
and then slowly meet new people, and that'll be obviously with Benny Solaris, where I went to Bulgaria after getting his help and listening to a podcast, and
Hmm.
it all just sort of fits into place. But yeah, you got to pick your battles and pick your friends and pick your circle, and that's yeah. But yeah, the biggest thing I did was not doing, and that's what my mate pulled me up for, and he said you're probably gonna run into trouble and upset the property owners. They're not seeing anything out of if we stay there, which I'll talk to you on the phone before
Hmm.
that, is that they're got to see something for you being there because you're in their space, you're on their place, you're using their power,
Well,
their
that's the thing,
water.
right? You said 9 guys came into camp and no one walked away with anything. And if you're only
Nothing.
charging for something when they do shoot something, you've essentially gone in for a week, used their space, used their electricity, used everything of theirs, and not given them a cent for it. Like you can see why that
Yeah,
would get somewhat questionable.
yeah, and it's not as if it's every weekend, but you can see
No.
that it still sticks. Like it's hard. Like the bow hunters, I'm not bagging the bow hunters. I mean, it's super hard to shoot a deer.
Mm.
So that's why I had to change it. So I've changed it to like on the property rate where you come on. So I understand money straight away as we pull up,
Yeah.
and then you buy, then you go hunting, and if you do, you pay the trophy fee, and they're getting money for it, and that's the biggest thing. You got to keep them happy. And I wasn't doing that, but yeah, my mate sort of gave me a reality check, and
Yeah.
under the year said you better pull your head in, or you're gonna, maybe they'll ask someone else, or whatever it is.
I
So
think of
yeah,
that as just like that's just a nicety that all hunters should try to bring into place anyway. Like even if you've got access and you've got free access, whatever it is, like still come up with a gift or something when you go to the property each time. I think that's valuable because once again you are consuming from them and you don't want to just be a leech essentially. You don't want to be a parasite to them. You want to
yeah,
be
that's right.
a favorable
And
member.
you'll see hopefully it works out this next year when it comes and you come up. It's the maddest camp ever. The boys will be able to tell you, like, it's full brand new dongers and huge, like 40-foot dongers, air conditioned beds, the whole. It's not
Yeah, wow.
you're glamping. You're not camping, or you're not
Yeah.
roughing it. Put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But that's all still theirs. If you know what I mean. I still clean it and do all the things, and I built. I redecked it and done the stairs, and you just got to do that stuff. You just got to ask them, do they need a hand with something, or it's painful, but that's just the way it works.
Be
And
valuable. No, yeah, I
as I
agree.
said, bread and milk goes a long way. I never drive out there without taking a loaf of bread and 2 litres of milk and putting it in the fridge and just text them and say, because I don't like to annoy them, so I don't speak to them every time. But
Yeah.
on a camp we do. But if I go pigging like the other night, I just tell them, I'm coming out at 8 o'clock at night. I won't see you. There's no drama. There you go. Put the bread and milk in the fridge, text them, and keep going.
Yeah.
Don't see them. Don't see
Yeah,
them.
that's awesome.
But got bread and milk in the open fridge. It's $10. What we do.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes a long way, like you said. It's just
Yeah.
the thought of it all. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on necessarily with the herd management and even running the stuff that you'd like to?
Not really. That's just the way it is. It don't be And I have the guys, like, I could go out every day and shoot a deer, but like, and a couple of boys like Solaris, and they said, "Oh, how many trophies have you shot?" And I said, "I've shot two in 11 years.
Yeah.
Two. I've shot mature stags, which are classed as crap. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
you just got to not be. I get the more fun, and most guides will tell you that they get the more fun out of
Taking
what I
others.
call first taking others and taking the right people and seeing the excitement on people's faces after they get their first rooster of different species and all that sort of stuff. It's just the mateship. And it's
Yeah,
not scouting
definitely.
off anyone. Like I said, with Ben, I just heard the podcast, him on a podcast in Bulgaria, and I was going to Europe for a holiday, and I thought, I'm going to tack this on. Like,
Yeah,
I've always wanted to
100%.
shoot a big fella and whatever. So I just ran amok and shot 5 species in the week or the 10 days I was there,
I
and
just
by
saw that
myself.
picture. Tell me, what'd you get again? You got you went the
So I shot,
mouflon, the
shot
chamois.
yeah. So I shot the fallow first, then moved the 600 k's to what's called Devon, a little town there up in the mountains,
Mhm.
and then I shot the boar, mouflon, chamois. Then the roe was the last one I shot. The roadie.
Wow, that's
So I
crazy. Was
shot
that rifle or bow or mixture?
rifle. No, sorry, rifle. No, because I had to hire the rifles off them, and you have to go
Yeah, of
and put up
course.
and do a shooting test and all this sort of stuff. And yeah,
What
it's
when you get there, you
primitive.
have to do a shooting test?
Yeah, it's primitive. Like the boys will tell you how it's changed a little bit. I was listening to the podcast with Grant
Randy.
Rand,
Yeah,
how they were saying it's a bit different, and that jerked me when they said you don't shoot the biggest one. You're going there to shoot the biggest frigging thing you can find, obviously. And I
mm,
know I'd only not long been after Solera shot that huge one he shot,
yeah.
um, number 3 or whatever, and to come out of the country.
World. Yeah, yeah. Was it world or was it the country?
Come out of Bulgaria. I think it's third
Okay,
biggest in the
yeah.
country, Bulgaria. But it's next level. That's awesome.
Big
But
old moose antlers, pretty much.
yeah, but I recommend that hunt to anyone if you can go. I don't know they're booked up, but it's cheap. It's really cheap. I think
Yeah,
I shot the 5 species other than flights, and it might have changed a bit now. And got driven interpreter the full time. She never left the whole time. If I wanted something in the middle of the night, you can yell out and they jump. They jump for you.
yeah. Wow.
It was pretty. Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, humbling, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
To give the servants a bit of money and they cry in front of you because it's probably more than what they made for the day.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Mm,
It's like going back 100 years. But I would say to anyone, if you get a chance and you can afford to go, it was awesome. It was
that's
like going back
incredible.
100 years in time. Still on horse and cart. Still old ladies with an apron and that look like the dolls and whatever dolls the Russian dolls you stack
Yeah, yeah,
inside each other. Those little things with the little thing. It was awesome. It was mind blowing to go
yeah.
back 100
Wow.
years. But it's very corrupt, so you got to be super careful that you're not a
Definitely.
you're not a fool. Yeah, do the right thing
It's
Go
the
from
story that Corey said about the guys rocking up the royalty or whoever they were rocking up in the middle of the night and just hearing bang, 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 all these rifles going off just because of the corruption. Essentially, they just paid their way in, and yeah,
yeah. Yeah, so the first hunt I didn't have to do a shooting test or anything, but it was more sort of more primitive. That's at student clad nets around that lake. But then when I went to Devon, the town, and I stayed in a lodge called Isvora Lodge. If you look it up, it's mind blowing, like absolutely mind blowing. I was the only person staying in like a 20 thingy lodge. It was awesome. It was
wow,
great. And
yeah,
like beautiful rooms and everything was, yeah, like servants and, yeah, it was crazy. It was,
yeah.
yeah, it was awesome.
Have you done New Zealand as well?
Yeah, I just did 2 trips to New Zealand in the last 2 years.
What did you do for
First
that?
one,
Was it all like
uh,
pre-organized by yourself, or you did it through a
no,
guide?
no, I just did a tour guide, Canterbury Tar Hunt. So long story short was Craig Pringle, who does the season, the fellow that filmed the season, Craig,
Hmm.
Black Fox Productions. He actually filmed with the guide we went with. But
Awesome.
oh, I mean, and that was my 50th. Was it last year? I think it was last year. So I decided we were going to go and do the Caribou over in Greenland,
Yeah,
where
amazing.
Murphy and
Yeah.
Claris had been, but yeah, that was sort of booked out. So I had to do Plan B, and I said to me, mate, do you want to go and shoot a tar? And yeah, and we didn't know who to book through. And yeah, you could go about New Zealand being, well, I was disappointed if you learn you don't know about the chopper shooting and the deer breeding and all that sort of stuff. It's not very sporting. You got your standard people, but then you have the heli flights flying around, rounding up the tar for someone to shoot. And so we just wanted that ethical, old school,
Yeah.
tar hunt in the mountains that you see in the books and the films and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, so we settled on this. John Royals, his name. He's a character. It's an old bushy, old trapper,
Yeah.
old and old school. She's a rough camp, and she's just away you go, carry all your gear, and in you go with the chopper. And yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, that's another whole story. But yeah, be prepared. Like we were in at -10 every night and every day.
Far out. Did you go
It,
for multiple layers or you went for quality stuff for your layering?
quality stuff. But and they talk about layering. That's what I say to people. But people's body temperature and body type's different. Well,
Mm,
my mate wore a light. We all wore the thermals, but he wore his light Sitka top, where I had like a bush flannel and all that sort of stuff. But I was on and off because I was sweating. You know what I mean? You get hot and
yeah.
you got to unlayer, and then when you stop, yeah. So you just got to learn to layer. And I just had I didn't, some people say wool, but I just had the nylon bloody thermals, if you know what I mean, because
Yeah, yeah.
in case we got wet. But yeah, just a good quality puffer, and and your wet weather gear. You just got to go prepared. But the biggest thing I stuffed up was with the sleeping bag. So when you read a rating on a sleeping bag, you double it to go to New Zealand.
Yeah, wow.
Because I'm like -10, for this sleep bag. And I said, yeah, it'll be right. And you had the inner and stuff. Like I slept in the most amount of clothes you could ever imagine. I'm talking beanies, gloves, 2 lots of thermals, 2 lots of pants, fleece pants, half a jacket, the whole lot. And and I woke up one night. We only spent a couple of nights, but I woke up and said, "Geez, my toe is so sore. What's going on?" And I flick on the headlight, and my toe had come through my sleeping bag and touched the tent, and my toe was frozen to
Oh
the inside of the
no.
tent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're all having a giggle about it. And my mate was a big hospital on me, telling her to pop my toe off the tent. But how it is, because you condensate inside, and they got little vents
Yes.
in the tent. But the guide will sort of help you with that. But yeah, I didn't have a good enough sleeping bag. That'd be the first thing.
Hmm.
And good boots in the snow. I'm not going into boots. People can wear what they like, Crispy's Lau or whatever. But you need
Yeah.
a decent leather boot in the snow. Where the next trip I got away with just I love Solomon's, the
Yeah.
feel and the lightness, and I used the GDX, I think it is, too, for the red deer hunt that we did, and there
Hmm.
was no snow, so they were perfect. So
Yeah.
it's
Awesome.
more, yeah, get fit and test your gear before, and definitely the best rating sleeping bag you can buy will be a $600 or $700 one, but
Hmm.
it'll save your life.
Yeah. Being able
Yeah.
to actually sleep when you're in the hills is a big difference too,
Well,
right?
it's
Compared to freezing
yeah,
our ass off.
and yeah. Well, I got 2 blokes. I can't stand snorers. My mate snores, and the guide snored like freight train. So it was awesome. It was unreal for 3 days, living off 3 hours sleep.
Joyce.
It
Nothing like it.
was like 2 chainsaws going off all night. So I just lucky I downloaded and I had my headphones. I had to sleep with music playing all night to
Yeah.
find,
Yeah. I've got
find
white noise that I put on in camp. I think I'm part of the problem though. I snore with, I've had a few beers. So
um, yeah. That's about it. Yeah, New Zealand's awesome, but yeah, you can do I'm not going to say don't do the free range stuff or you do it yourself, but yeah, you just got to be super prepared. Beautiful country,
Yeah. I think
Beautiful
the cool thing
place.
is that you can do it either way, right? You can either pay your way and get that
Yeah,
experience, or you can go yourself and get that experience. It's kind of open
yeah,
for both.
and it's time and money dependent. If you've got
Hmm.
time, maybe do that. But like if you only, I work 7 and 7, so you got 7 days off to get it
Get
done.
there,
So,
get back,
and that,
and hunt.
get there,
Yeah.
get back, hunt, and do all that sort of stuff. So that's just what we did. But yeah, there was plenty of giggles. We both shot. Me and my mate both shot a tar, and then we come back and like we wanted to do our own trophy prep. Like that's the biggest thing about Bulgaria. They're rough, so I was with them all the time. Yeah, head
Mm.
skins boiling. They boil the shit out of everything and whatever. But yeah, I just made sure, and they're like, "No, it's all right." And I'm like, "No, I'm staying
Yeah, yeah.
here."
That's
So I kept all my animals over there. I didn't let them touch it. I
Mhm.
don't even whatever I brought home. So I brought the mouflon and the roadie home, but the skins. But I got them tanned, and then we eventually got them all back. But
Mm.
yeah, I made sure that I had caped all that. And I went to the taxidermist and delivered them in Sofia in the main town. I got them to drive me there and do all that sort of stuff. So
That's
yeah,
incredible.
it's a thing for other people. If you go overseas, make sure you're doing your trophy prep right because once it's done, you can't blame someone else for not. And there's heaps of horror stories.
Definitely. Yeah. And I mean,
Do
did
it.
you just learn that from doing it multiple times
I'm a slaw-
yourself?
I'm a slaw- I'm a swordsman, and then yeah, with the
Oh,
deer
yeah,
it's
of
a bit
course.
different.
Yeah, I
I
was
had to
thinking that
lean
when you
on.
said that you worked in the butchers, I'm like, oh, and the slaughterhouse. I was like, yeah, you'd be a good person to have in camp. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So that's probably the easy side of it. But the caping wasn't. I know how to skin things, but I don't know where to drive. When I learned to cape deer and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
biggest thing is just cape out a couple of culls. So that's what we did. Like and just leaned on people for experience. Met a really good friend. Tried to swap a hunt, like a chiddle hunt, and yeah, he's ended up being my best mate. And so we just hunt every weekend if we can together. And that's who I took to New Zealand. And yeah, just finding a good buddy that's got the same values.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
not everyone, what I mean, you still got all your circle, but you sort of you'd see that with everyone. You sort of got a couple of close mates that live close by or you do stuff with.
Hmm.
And yeah, he just loves trophy and meat preparation, and yeah, so it's good. So he was good to learn off.
Definitely. Yeah, it's
And
pretty interesting when you share camp with someone who doesn't have the same. It's not that they don't have the same values, but maybe they don't necessarily have the same technique or the same approach to meat the way that you do and stuff. Like I've found it many times over where it comes to the butchering side and people just kind of rough it and do whatever. I'm like, no, no, no. There's a process. Like, let's do this properly. Let's make sure that it is going to be usable moving forward.
yeah, and I understand in the States you've got to do all that, carrying it back, but we do what they call the Northern Territory style here now. So we shoot out animals and we bone them out on the ground. He
On
calls
the
it
spot.
magpie. Yeah, on the spot. So we bone the whole thing out on the spot. There's a way to do it, and
Mm,
that's all we take. So we take little metal hooks, and there's a bit of breeze because you want the heat to come out of your meat. So he's doing one and I'm doing the other at the same time, and you just hang the cuts up as you go and put them on the fence to take that chill out of them, and then straight on the ice. So all we leave,
yeah,
you can
wow.
crack the ribs off. I'll show you if you come up how to do it. So it's unreal. So all you leave is the skin, the legs, and the guts, and the backbone, and that's it. You take the ribs, you take the undercut fillets, and the whole lot. Everything's done in the actual individual cuts.
That's
It takes a
awesome.
bit. It
Yeah.
takes a little bit to learn the cuts, but it's no different to taking it home and boning out the legs. So most hunters have got a rough idea how to, do the cuts and stuff on an animal, but
Yeah.
we do everything on the ground. So you drive off with the eskies on ice
That's
full of meat,
impressive. So
carcass.
you essentially gut it out and then rip it through the
No,
chest.
no, no, no gut,
No
no,
gutting.
no gut. So you split the backbone first, like down the backbone,
Yep.
and then you skin it outwards, if you can understand. So you lay
Hmm.
the skin away from the legs, where usually you would lay the skin towards
The carcass.
the
Yeah.
backside. It's the total opposite. So you take the back straps out first with its gun out,
Yep.
because then when you roll it over to the other side, you lay it on the skin. The side that's
Mm.
already been laid out is laid out, and you don't get it dirty. You'd have to see. Probably should do a YouTube video on it,
Yeah, I
but
was going to say, what did you actually call it? The Northern Territory method?
he calls it that. It's what they do in the territory when they go and do a killer. They call it magpieing. That's the Aussie
Magpie.
terminology for it.
Yeah.
Magpie,
Okay.
like a magpie.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what my mate calls it. It probably isn't called that, but that's how they butcher a lot of the stations. So they're not carting home forequarters and bones and all that crap.
Hmm.
People might like to do that, but it's easier to leave everything out there, for the scavengers after you've left and there's nothing. So once you've done your first side, which you take the backbone, the neck, and then you start boning out all the cuts, you can crack the ribs off. So you obviously got to cut
Mm.
the guts open a little bit like the skin, and push the guts away a little bit. It's just out of the carcass,
Yep.
and then you crack all the ribs off. You just run your knife down, you crack the ribs off. You take all
Hmm.
the ribs, you take down the cuts and that, and then you flip it over and you do a mirror sort of image of that.
Yeah, that's
And
incredible.
so yeah, you're taking ribs, you're taking everything. All you're leaving is
I,
the
I
head.
like the concept of getting rid of the heat out of the meat straight away too.
Yeah. Sometimes you can't, but we just made up little hooks out of wire, and we
Hmm.
take that back. Because obviously we've got our knife roll when we're going, on a meat mission, and we take blocks of ice from in town and a few eskies, and then you just get out you go. So you're not, lugging carcasses back and hair and fur and all that sort of stuff. You're just doing
Mm.
the, obviously you've got to have a bit of a trim up when you get home.
Yeah.
And as I say, my mate's real fussy with the meat side of it, so it's straight home and not eat it straight away. You cryovac it and
Yeah.
sit it in the fridge for a week. So let it break down inside the cryovac bags for a week, and then you do what you like with it.
Yeah. It's
Which
incredible.
I'm mainly schnitzels here because the kids love schnitzels and it's easy.
Yeah.
Um, not saying it's gamey, it doesn't taste like rump steak. Obviously, it has its own sort of,
Yeah, definitely.
pardon me, its own sort of texture and taste. And yeah, the kids just love, just put them through the tenderizer and breadcrumbs, and yeah, everyone eats it.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I think a few times I've done just the gutless method, but quartering out, and you take home the meat. And I've got a big 90-liter bushbuck bag, which is waterproof,
Mm.
which means it also doesn't really breathe that much. And so
Yeah,
you're putting that heat, like the carcass meat, essentially straight into your bag, and
yep.
it's already pretty hot. And then you're walking all the way back to camp, however long that takes you. So by the time you get back to camp, no heat's been lost at all, and that to me, I think, is somewhat problematic.
Yeah, it would turn. You can get bone taint and all that stuff, but well, it
Mm.
won't go in. But yeah, 100%. If you want the best quality meat, you got to try and get the temperature out of it straight away.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't really shoot in the middle of the day or anything. I know sometimes it's hard, but if we're going on a meat run, it's always just on dark or night time.
Yep.
And majority of the time, there's a farmer's fence somewhere close, or you just drag it over to the fence and start, and then yeah, you just keep hooking them up just with the wire each cut. Leave it on the fence for even 15, 10 minutes is enough
Yep.
to you touch it and you see the heat's all gone, and then in your esky to chill it down. And
Yeah, mate, that's incredible.
if you can do that, like it makes a huge difference. Like pulls the temp straight down. The ice doesn't melt. Your ice is still pretty much the same. A little bit when in the next morning,
Yep.
and then and don't fuck around going for another one or going for a hunt. If you're going to go on a meat run, do your meat run,
Do it properly.
and go
Yeah.
straight back to the fridge or the angles or whatever you're going to do, and do it properly.
Mm.
Because if you get sidetracked, you're not taking the heat straight out of it.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, if you don't get a YouTube video done before I come up, I promise that I'll make that a video for everyone because I'm very
Yeah, well,
intrigued by that.
it might be the way to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not the best at, you got to know the cuts. I struggle with the rump a little bit. It's probably the hardest one to find when you first do that, but the rest are pretty easy. But,
Hmm.
I think for all these guys that are out doing it, it'd be so much better. You could hang it up or, I know it's a lot more little individual things to hang up, but if you can hang it up, look, a big leg hanging up in a tree has that, all that temperature that's
Mm.
still not cooling down as much as you got it in the shade and stuff like that. It's still got an internal temperature of heaps as
Yeah.
it's a solid mass. It's 10 kilos of meat that
Yeah,
has to try and
exactly.
cook it in. Where you do it this way, it's zaps it straight out of it, and then you can put it in your meat bags or however you do it.
How long do you reckon a rooster deer, for instance, would take you to bone out and do that process?
Uh, 20 minutes,
Wow, that's
20
impressive.
minutes, half an hour.
Yeah.
I'm a bit fussier because I was a slaughterman, so I just try to keep the hair off them, and you know what I mean. Like, but yeah, if you wanted to be yeah, half an hour. Well, my mate does a full beast in an hour or two of them.
Wow,
So
that's crazy.
yeah, 40 minutes if you're taking your time for. But I think it'd be ideal for bow hunters or people like that. You know what I mean? It's a lot easier than trying to lug out legs and
Hmm.
all that sort of stuff. It would pack down in your meat bags and mm,
Yeah, definitely. I
it's,
think
it's a,
obviously it's dependent on your situation as well, what you've got set up at
yeah,
camp versus what you don't
100%.
have. But I mean, as a process, that sounds pretty incredible. It'd be definitely something
Well,
I
it's
think.
just easy. It's just easy because it's the same
Yeah.
cuts. It's exactly the same as what you're going to try and lug back to camp and try
Hmm.
and bone it out the next morning. And
Saves the double
obviously,
handling.
yeah, and you're lucky where we are in the rut. You can get down to 0 or -1 sometimes. Like you're tucked in
Mm,
not far, where we are. So it gets quite cold even though it's Queensland. It does get down to minus and frosts and whatever where I go. That side of it's good because it chills it. But yeah, just this
quickly.
side's
Yeah.
so much easier, and that's the other thing I say. You can struggle, nothing against the bow hunters, but I think if you're going to go for meat, just take a gun and get it done. Get it done quick if you like your meat. And when you want to go and hunt with a bow, go and hunt with a bow. That's what I found is just easier. Like I fluff around, pre-rut, checking cameras and looking for velvet stags and all that, and I'll take me bow. But that's the time and a place to, do your hunts or during the rut. But if you're just going on a meat run and you want meat, because everyone's time poor,
Hmm.
you got young kids. Doesn't get any easier even when they're 16 or 17. You still got to manage them.
Definitely.
Yeah, so yeah, if that's what it is, and you don't get out much, and you got a gun, just go and bloody go and shoot them, and just makes it easier on yourself.
Yeah, I've definitely put a lot of pressure on myself. I mean, I've been trying to go
It's
as
hard.
as
It's
long
hard
as
not to.
possible. Yeah, definitely, but trying to go as long as possible without necessarily buying meat. I mean, just being a hunter in general, that's the benefits of it, right? You don't
Mm,
necessarily have to go
mm,
to the butchers and spend 500
yep,
bucks getting some cuts for a month or whatever. But as a concept, whenever the freeze is getting low, I definitely feel the pressure as a bow hunter. I'm like, oh, so yeah, getting a gun, that was something I only did this year, the start of this year. And I
yep.
haven't used it heaps, but we used it particularly on the last hunt that I went on. I used it on, it was actually on the rut this year when I didn't get a stag for the first, whatever it was, 5 days. And so on the very last hunt I went on, I went out with a gun. But yeah, I'd really recommend doing it the other way. Get your meat first, secure your meat easily, and then go and buy a hunt because you
And
take
if you
pressure
get,
off.
and that's what I mean, and then pressure's off, and you can go and enjoy your hunt with a bow. You
Yeah.
know, I've got the luxury. I can go out now. I could leave now and be home with a fridge full of meat. That's just the way that it's structured. But yeah,
Mm,
I just think I hear it all the time. Like people are like, oh, no, I need meat or whatever like that. But it's probably just easy to do that. So you're enjoying a full hunt with the bow, and there's no pressure, and I mean, you're not making silly mistakes or trying to rush.
definitely.
It's just easier if it's just meat. It's only meat. That's all you got to get through your head. You're feeding your family or doing what you're
Hmm.
doing.
Yeah.
Just go out and get your meat and enjoy what you do. Like,
Tick off the provider list and then you're good to go.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
That's people. That's up to the individual as well. But I just think that's a smarter thing for the less stress and the less people being time poor and
Yeah, I think I always used to have the battle of, well, I'm taking this time away from the family, putting a lot of pressure on my wife and on my kids. Essentially, when you're away, like you said, you're not there. You have to manage your family to the extent of what you
mm,
do anyway.
yep.
But it's like if you're going away for, let's say, 3, 4 days a week, and you're coming home without anything. For me, that was always a dilemma. That was something that I had to kind of overcome
So because
myself.
then
And
the wife goes, "Oh, you got nothing.
yeah,
What a
yeah,
waste
exactly. Yeah,
of time."
yeah.
Even though you've had fun,
Which
it's
is the first 2 years of my hunting. Oh, great. What is this thing?
yeah, yeah, it's a hobby.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Expensive one.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
no.
know if you want to touch on the season or you
Mate,
want
yeah,
to
let's
move.
go. No, that's 100%. Jump in.
Yeah. So anyway, eventually, where I said leading up to Bulgaria, I heard a podcast from Benny Solaris. I hadn't had much to do with the bow hunting community, but it all ties in. They eventually know people that once you get into that circle from on
Hmm.
down south. So there's plenty of bow hunters down there that know people. They've been in it all their lives. So yeah. And I listened to Benny's podcast, and that's when he said that Bulgaria is quite cost effective. Like it was good for the money, and
Hmm.
yeah, he loved it and whatever. So then I think he was on Hunt Camp Down Under with Halsey.
Yep.
That's what I heard him. So I texted Halsey and asked him would he give me his number. It's one of them things that you probably don't want to do. But Ben runs silent pursuits too, which he was just sort of getting off the
Off
ground.
the ground. Yeah.
He's been the what do you call him? A bloody a memory blank. What they call themselves, like a consultant, whatever they call themselves
Yeah. Yeah. That's
for
essentially
hunting.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just thought, oh, and I didn't. I asked Craig, can I have his number? And he said, yeah, mate, no worries. He's pretty good to talk to and whatever. So I just texted him and said who I was and that I was interested in going on the Europe holiday with the family and then drop off the last week and I'd stay over there and go. So yeah, I talked to him for ages. It was cool to talk
Yeah.
to. And happy to help out and do whatever. So he contacted the guide or the Bulgarian hunting service, and then I just gave him some dates and pretty much, yeah, I did most of it myself
Hmm.
with his help. And then, yeah, tagged that on and went and did me Bulgarian trip. And then after that, got home and he done his silent pursuit stuff. I think he went to the deer show and about 4 or 5 of those photos and my photos on his banners and all that sort of stuff. And the boys
Yeah.
jumped on board. But it was quite funny because Brad Murph was over there, Jerry Redmond, James Doomstis were all in camp when I arrived.
So a pack of
Um,
wankers, really.
yeah, pack of idiots. But I'm the rifle hunter, not the bow hunter, and all the boys are there. But the guides, because the language barrier is hard, and it was quite funny for me and I should have, because I've got not a bad sense of humour. But I should have tuned in when I first walked in. But the joke was that the pommy's coming. Like, there's a pommy, like a bloke coming from England, but I was
Yeah.
in England on holidays, you see. So the guides and that are going, oh, there's another fella coming in tonight. And that was there last night. They'd finished, and I was hunting the next morning. So the
Yeah.
big running joke with them was the fucking pommy. You know what I mean? Like this pommy come, why would a pommy want to come and all this sort of shit. Anyway, so I sort of let that. Sort of let it. This was what I found out later. But if I hadn't known, I would have walked straight in and said, "There's, no fucking pommies here, mate." Like, but anyway, I got in my room through the door and I could hear all them, carrying on in the
Having a
in the
giggle. Yeah.
And he was dining room and stuff like that. And when I spoke, and then it was quiet for a minute, and they go, he's not a comic. Yeah. So I spent a night with the boys, which was cool, and I didn't know any of them, but they all know. Like Jerry Redmond was good mates with one of my best mates growing up, and it all works out.
Definitely. Yeah,
Um,
it's a small community, really.
yeah, that's right. Aussie, even Australia is probably the biggest, one of the biggest countries in the world. It's not hard to know someone from up north to south, and
Yeah,
that's what
especially
you'll
in a
find.
niche like hunting. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And it's probably hard for people to grasp, but yeah, it's an easy one to know people that are in that hunting circle.
Mm.
So yeah, did that trip, and then how it all unfolded. Got home, and then I said I'll help Ben out if he wanted to come for a hunt. So I invited him for a hunt with his wife and whatever, and they came out for a weekend, and I think he shot at 28 or something like that. So we had a bit of fun and done some meat, and that was sort of my payback for him because it's a fairly big trip to organise and
Mm.
off the cuff, and yeah, and he helped me out heaps, and it was awesome trip. So I invited him back to just come and have a hunt as a bit of a repayment, if you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
to help me out. And yeah, sort of still good friends with him and made friends with him. And then yeah, he rang me up a bit later and said, "Oh, there's a film crew going to try and start this hunting show a bit not like Meat Eater, well, it's a bit like Meat Eater."
Mm.
And he said, "Oh, yeah, are you interested? Because I'm the one with the property. That's the biggest thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Definitely.
I'm the one that has
The hot
the
girl in the
base.
bar. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm the hot girl in the bar because everyone else doesn't have whatever, and they wanted a certain, they did the thing in Tassie with the Wallabies and all that with Sarah and all that sort of stuff, so they had what they wanted. And then he rang me and said, "Are you interested?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll just bring the property owner and say that well, if there's a film crew coming, and I charge them a certain price for the property owner, which is where I started to charge people for for being there, because
Yes.
obviously
Yeah.
there were 4 or 5 blokes in that 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, on that first film of the season, the first one.
Hmm.
Yeah, so he just rang up, set a date, and then yeah, away we went. So that was a bit different being mic'd up and all the fluffy stuff that goes with. So hats off to you doing podcasts and anyone who films, because there's a lot more that goes into it than us being bloody keyboard warriors for 20 minutes. Like, when's the next episode? When's the next episode? That's what you find. You probably find that on the show that you like on YouTube. Like, when's he going to let another one go? But
Yeah.
there's a
I always love it when someone says something along the lines of, "Oh, I wouldn't have done it like this," or "This was shit," or whatever. And you're like, "Well, thanks for putting out all your content." And there's none, there's nothing that they've ever done. But
yeah. What have you
it's
done?
yeah,
Yeah,
it is
and
very funny to watch that.
I look back now, and there's things we could have done different, but that was his first go at it. You know what I mean? Not
Yep.
saying he doesn't do productions, but that was his sort of first go at it. And yeah, you can pick things out of it, but that's just the way it
Mm,
is. That's how it unfolded, and you could have done things better or worse or whatever. But yeah, hats off to anyone who hasn't a go, because there's a lot involved.
definitely.
There's
Yeah.
shitloads involved. The amount of skits you do and the amount of retakes you do and
Hmm.
all that stuff is crazy. And me trying not to swear being mic'd up on national TV and sort of stuff was a bit hard, but yeah, a great experience. And yeah,
There's
we had a
only
ball.
so many bleeps you can have in a sentence
Yeah,
without sounding too
I
silly,
was,
right?
concentrating right now, because anyone who knows me in real life, it's probably every second word sometimes. So
You've done well then.
I had to behave myself. But
Yeah, and so
it was great. Like, meeting new people. Like, I had a guy in Camp Wisey, and they all film the block. These guys, so they all
mm,
doing good stuff. And yeah, he'd been overseas doing the wars in Africa and stuff. So he was a wealth of knowledge, and he was awesome to talk to. So just the
yeah, I
people
can
that you meet.
imagine the stories.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I had a young fella helping him, and he'd never shot a pig before, so the place is good for pigs. So I took him up to the feeders when they were feeding grain, and he shot like over 100 kilo balls, first pig he's ever shot. And
Wow.
it's just that sort of a thing I call first. You know what I mean? Like, first things either for your kids. If you can't do it with your kids, like, it's good if they do it with a mate or something like that. And yeah,
Definitely.
just be a good person. So yeah, he was over the moon. He got the jaw, and I wouldn't even looked at it, but he wanted the jaw because it was his first
It's
pig,
the
and
first thing. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I took it home, and I had my old dog there, and the other fellow I was saying that he's a bit different when you come from the country to the city. That's all I'll say. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
opening people's eyes up on things, and yeah, we went and caught a couple of pigs with the dogs, and he actually even went in and dispatched one with me knife, and couldn't believe how quick it was, and
Yeah,
so it's just all that sort of stuff, like just opening people's eyes to a bit different things. So it's not
definitely.
bloodthirsty,
No,
not
yeah,
bloodthirsty,
the actual
and they
experience
still
and the
call it.
adventure that comes
Yeah,
with it.
yeah, and he still calls me a redneck, so he texts me every now and then and said, "How's the redneck going?" and all that sort of stuff. So
That's great. Yeah, no, I love that side of things, being able to take someone out to the country and just, I mean, even I took my girls out to the farm on the weekend, and just them experience space again, because we're in the
Mm.
city. We can see houses every direction you go. And I mean, we're not even cramped up. We've got a big house and stuff compared to what some people live in units and whatever. But going out to that farm and being able to just witness that space and go and explore and drive, like have them drive the buggy, get them to collect their own food from
Yeah.
the eggs and stuff, like it's just so transformative. And a few weeks ago, I took a mate on his very first hunt, and I'm about to take it a friend and my brother out for their first hunt in a couple coming weeks. And that stuff is very transformative for people when they get to witness taking their own food,
Mm.
and kind of experiencing that. That's a whole different element. And I think it's very innate in people. Once they actually see it and do it and process it themselves, they're like, wow, that wasn't as hard or as far-fetched as what I thought it was probably going to be.
Yeah, for sure. And just
Yeah.
yeah, and gear wise, I look after me. Not everyone's, makes a lot of money. Not saying I'm rich or anything like that, but I'll work for what I get. But I try
Hmm.
to just sort of help my mates out. If I'm going to sell something or upgrade, and you can't just buy Sporos straight away and all that. Like it's a huge outlay.
Hmm.
The gear wise side of it, I went out there for the first time, didn't know what speargrass was, and went out with a pair of fleecy ridgeline pants, and I sold
I
them to
did
some
that
fella
too.
in. I sold them to some fella in Canberra a bit later, and I'm sure he's probably still cursing me 10 years later for the amount of speargrass that was in them. And the kids
I
hate
actually
the
burnt my first pair. I got a pair and they just got literally from top to bottom covered in speargrass. I burnt them. I'm like, fuck that. There's
yeah.
no point.
So you got to start. You got to start somewhere. And I started with basic binos like Bushnells and whatever, and dropped them in the cows, stomped on them, I lost them, and found them a month later, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, because I was sort of starting fresh when I sort of started this block, because I didn't need binos and didn't have them for Samba, and had winter clothes. And you come to Queensland where it's 40 degrees during the day, and it's a
Yeah.
whole new different ball game. But yeah, I try and look after my mates. If I'm selling something or upgrading, I just look after them and make
Hmm.
sure that they're getting something. It's that circle thing again. Yeah,
Definitely. It's like the concept of your bow, even. That's a cool concept to see it go
yeah, well,
full
it's
circle and
three
come back
waves and
around.
it's back. It's come back around. So
Yeah.
I don't need, it's not my forte. I've just got it to keep my son off the computer inside, and he's at the right age, a good age, and get
Hmm.
him outside. I know I've still got my trad. I've got a Black Widow for a trad, so I just went to the trad. So I didn't add that in. I went from the wheel, and then give it up for a while, and then when the boys started coming back up for the season, and then I just went, yeah, I went and bought a Black Widow recurve. So that's what I use.
Mm.
Yeah, but that's more just for scouting, if you know what I mean. Like I just
Yeah.
take that when I'm
Straight to the
scouting.
hardest element.
And yeah, the hardest element. And I did have that at the start, so I'm just a struggle stick.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I just poke around when I'm doing the cameras and all that sort of stuff with the recurve, because one day maybe, yeah, I'd love to be able to shoot a stag with the recurve one day.
Definitely.
But
Yeah.
just
That's the goal for me too.
just got to keep chipping away at it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I
that's what I
think,
said.
oh, go
Yeah,
on. Sorry.
okay. Yeah,
I
I'll
was
just
going
say
to,
that, and that's what I mean. The second season, we did the second filming. That's what I say. Gordo was the only one, and me and him were just cruising around with the pigs, and there's a swamp there, and I said, "Oh, look, there's a hind over there." And then he took the fuse off and went over, and he's got a, I think, yeah, this is the recurve. I'm sure he bought it off Spinksy, and yeah, he arrowed this hind. That was the first one that was the only bow shot deer for that season. But yeah,
hmm
he was over the moon, and yeah, he was over, harvest that bloody, and just wearing flannel like just clothes, shorts and a t-shirt. And I said, look, there's one. I'll never go at that. And he went over there and arrowed it straight away. So that was pretty cool.
How good's
Pretty
that?
cool, cool to
Yeah.
see.
It's
Yeah, a lot
like
of
our
misses.
pre-rut mission. We Benny Fenson with his bow was the only one that got one. We had all these wheels in camp, and he was the only one that got one with the stick bow. You're like, that's a testament, right? I think.
Yeah, that's right. That's dedication, and you got to be. I mean, I
Yeah.
sort of not 100% dedicated to it, but I can shoot it average and just chip away at it when the time suits.
Definitely. Yeah,
That's
I've
me.
got
But
a fantasy of my original bow, which was a Bowtech carbon icon. It's now with a friend. It was a guy that I took out hunting not so long ago for his very first hunt, and I've got this fantasy of now passing it on to the next person eventually, and just continuing that thing, and it can be the bow that gets people into it, I hope, and just continue that.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need nothing against it. Like it's good to have good gear, but I don't need the brand new bow just for my son to get out and do whatever. We can
Mm,
still fling arrows, and it's got good sights and all that sort of stuff. It's made sure that it had all the good gear that goes with it. And
exactly right.
yeah,
And at the end of the
keep
day,
him,
it's teaching the elements of what a good hunter is and how you can get close. And then it doesn't
yeah,
necessarily matter what gear you've got, because if you're
yeah,
close, your
100%.
job's done. Yeah.
And I say to people with rifles, you can have a $10,000 blazer, but if you've got a $200 shit scope that you can't see anything after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, what's the point?
Mm,
What's the point? Because you'll never be able to shoot anything on low light, or when most animals are out, like most stags, right on daybreak, right on dark, that sort of stuff. If you don't have the right optics, so you're better off spending your money on a
shit
mid-range gun
rifle, good.
mid-range gun that still, shoots nice, and put all your money into your optics.
Good optics, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I couldn't even
so
tell you what optics
so
I've got on my rifle. Like, I don't care just because it does the job now. I'm happy
yeah,
with what
that's
it
right.
does.
But it
Yeah.
just makes a difference on that
Oh,
low light
100%.
stuff you're just
Yeah.
talking, compared to, I'm not naming names or whatever. It's up to what you can afford is the
Hmm.
biggest thing. But save your money. And Brad Murphy's analogy is buy once, cry once.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What do you
Yeah,
go in with?
it's funny though, because when I got into bow hunting, I didn't have a lot of money, like compared to where I'm at now. Essentially, I didn't have the money to be able to the buy once, cry once. So I did buy twice. But at the same time, I needed to do that to almost prove to myself it was going to be something I wanted to continue doing as well.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to tell you how many scopes I've bought and binoculars and whatever
Yeah,
to get
exactly.
where I am. To get where I am, but anyway, I still like to work, and that's what I said. Don't bag anyone if they're having a crack and they earn more
Exactly.
money than what you do. There's probably a purpose or why they do,
Yeah.
and get yourself into niche markets and good jobs, and yeah, to help pay for stuff.
Yeah,
Anyway, then the
exactly.
season. So then, yeah, when the season, I'll keep jumping back, but that's the way I could talk to you
No,
for
it's good.
hours. So then, yeah, got the phone call, organised it with Craig, and away we went for that hunt. And that'll be the first season you see where Benny shoots the real cracker rooster, and another one that's a bit of a shitty one.
Yeah, which you can
But
watch
yeah,
on binge, I believe, is where it's on.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're probably better off getting Craig on one time to go through that whole scenario. But
Yeah, I
obviously, it
didn't
was
mean to. Yeah.
sponsored by Ridgeline. What was going to happen this year, hopefully, but it didn't happen. But that was my whole plan of getting Murph and him up there to for a bit more bow coaching and the film side of it, which I'm not all savvy with. But there's a lot of politics in the money and the
Mm,
where it's broadcast and all that sort of stuff. So I gather that's why it's on binge. It was meant to be on Channel 9 because that's what it was.
yeah.
I can't nail it on the head why that didn't happen, all the politics that goes through it. But and then he was trying to break the back of being on mainstream media. You know what I mean, like on national TV. So
Mm,
how people take that. Like you're watching, the block, and then next minute you've got a hunting show,
straight to hunting.
which is what he was trying to do, which
Yeah.
is great. It's great
Yeah,
for us.
definitely.
That's what he was sort of trying to get across. But I think Ryder went to binge, and then I think it was on Fox. Fox bought the rights for a little bit. That's
Hmm.
what I watched anyway. And he went through the motions, and yeah, done that. It was cool. It was awesome to do. And then they came back next year, and that's what I said when we had the 9 blokes in camp. So we had a certain amount of blokes, which was Gordo, and then he flew another fellow out to help film, and then Solaris was on his way back from Darwin, so he called in. Yeah, it's pretty cool, but yeah, no one arrowed anything, only Gordo with the hind on
Yeah.
that trip. I think we were there for whatever it was, 7 or 8 days, and yeah, did the second filming, which was less me, was more Brad Murphy and the boys with the bows. Even though the
Hmm.
first one was bows, we did a bit of rifle and stuff like that. So I'm in the first one, but yeah, don't know if I'm in the second one. But I can't tell you when that's due to be released.
Airing.
But
No,
it's
yeah.
got to be soon. But it's got to be soon. But anyway, everyone that watched it said it. They were happy. They thought it was good.
Definitely. Yeah, I
Good
think
to
the more we can bring to light hunting and the lifestyle of it rather than the killing side of it, because I think that's what
yeah,
everyone pictures it just as that versus
yeah.
trying to get the good word across and like
Uh,
the life-changing abilities of it. I think that's the part where we win everyone else over. The meat providing and etc. That's the stuff that you win the hearts and minds of everyone else.
and the overall management, everything's here to stay. I don't care. I mean, you can't get rid of cane toads. You could rattle on
No.
about the dickheads that let cane toads go. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
no different to the deer being a wild species or any animal.
Hmm.
I don't think you can annihilate them. They've tried to annihilate rabbits and foxes, and they're not going anywhere. Same as
No,
toads and
exactly.
wild dogs. Everyone looks about the dingoes and the wild dogs. Don't worry, I've taken hundreds of them out of the equation, and they still keep coming. So
Yeah.
there's not you're not touching nothing. You're just managing stuff. That's the biggest thing I say to people is you're managing to a manageable level,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
and trying to use a resource, not
Yeah.
wasting it.
No, and I think that's the
So,
biggest thing, right? It's I mean, what you had to do was essentially monetize the deer to be able to make it worthwhile for the farmer. But the same concept with that, you are using the resource versus it just being as everyone already pictures them as the pest or the feral
yeah,
that
100%.
that we
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
utilize. But it's
And
like
like I said,
really
at certain times, like now when it's dry, I know in the back of his mind would be going, bloody deer, but he likes to have
my
them.
feed. Yeah.
Yeah, but my feed for cows because ultimately he's not a deer farmer, he's a cattle farmer, and that's
Yeah.
what people have got to realise. It's their place. They can kick you off tomorrow. You don't own it. People get
Hmm.
sour with it, and it's hard not to for the time and effort you put in. Like when other people try and ring up and come on and stuff like that. That's what annoys me. Like it's super hard that I've spent 11 or 12 years there getting a good relationship with them, help them out. do all that sort of stuff, and then you still got the door knockers, which I think you're going to get everywhere. That's just the
Definitely.
way it is. It's got to
Yeah.
hopefully you've got the trust in them to know you've done the right thing, and they tell people no.
Yeah. Yeah,
Is a
definitely.
big thing. And
Well,
then yeah, second season. Sorry, I'll just go to
no,
the
go. Yeah,
season.
finish it. Go for it.
So second season was the 9 guys in camp and done that. And then yeah, we haven't really done anything after that. So I don't know what's going on or when that's going to be released. But
Yeah.
obviously the friendships, like a ton of friendships.
It's good that they
Yeah,
obviously got the funding for season 2. It means that it was obviously well enough received for them to say,
yeah,
okay,
all of
let's
that,
do
yeah.
another.
And you'd have to talk to Craig about how all that works because I don't know how all that sort of works. He's got to get sponsors, I suppose, and
Hmm.
to be able to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Um, but he's friends with that Johnny Raw, the guy down there, on to me about doing a New Zealand rut, like a rut hunt next year
How good.
to try and come and film it. But yeah, I've got a car show that I'm going to, so I'm going to back out of that and get my car ready to go to a show.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So yeah, anything else you want to cover or
No, I think
we
I
can
guess a
we can
question
get
that probably people have is, are you taking on people at all? Are you trying to get sell spots at all for the Rooster in the coming years, or are you pretty booked
So
up for
I could probably tattoo both arms with the amount of people that
it?
want to come for a hunt. But as I said, it's hard when you only sort of got that maturity and you don't know what comes in. This is I say year to year. I stress on that first hunt, even though you scout and you think there's nothing there. I stress all the time because you get
Hmm.
people like you guys that were coming up, and I'm thinking shit. And then I had to canyon for other reasons. Plus, one Brad had hurt his shoulder or whatever. But there was no deer numbers this year, so
Yeah.
obviously you can't control the animals, they're wild, and that's what I
Mm-mm.
said would happen to me. They were scattered a lot. Like there is some numbers back now that I seen the other night was sort of a holy F moment
Yeah.
that all sort of appeared back, but which is more does and young ones, but they weren't there. And then, like I said, where I usually see 60 or 70 deer in the morning, I was seeing one.
Yeah. That's
Um,
crazy. But I mean, at the same time, you did us a favor by doing that as well.
yeah, 100%. Like you can't tell people. You just got to go up there and it would have been a shit show. Like we obviously still shot a couple that was with the rifles, but it was hit and miss. It was not the numbers or not the hunting. You know what I mean? Like it usually is.
Mm.
Uh, and that's the biggest stress for. I'm not a guide. I'm more doing the word of mouth and helping people out, and I don't gain anything from it. If you know what I mean? Like it's more
Yeah.
just Solera's helped me, vice versa. That's how you sort of leaning on people to help you out,
Hmm.
and not it's not take. It's plenty of give.
Yes.
Uh, and obviously I'm the vessel because I'm the one. They don't come if I'm the one with the property. So that's it. That's how it works. But yeah, it
Yeah.
is a hard one. Benny's asked me to put it on silent pursuits, and I said I don't have the time, the family
Can,
time, 7 days
yeah,
a week,
definitely.
and you only got 1 week unless I take holidays. You only really got 1 week in that 2 months, so you got 3 hunts, just say. So that's why I
Mm.
sort of based the year on who wants to come and or who I invite. And sort of that 3 mature stags a year, and then I take the culls out myself, and that's what I'm saying. Every year changes. Like I've been chasing this stag. He looks like a red stag. He's got no outers and anything like that. He's got these like a scimitar, like a oryx sort of opposite that.
Yeah. Wow.
And I haven't seen him for like 3 years. And the morning I go out for a hunt, here he is. This is like 2 years later. Like I didn't get a shot on him, but that's what I mean. It's just like that. They seem to nick off for a while, and then they come back this year, and then they'll disappear, or see him on a trail camera. I see heaps on a trail camera they'd like to shoot. Like they've got some mad looking antlers, but you never see them.
Mm.
They
Just
never turn
smart.
up. They'll just go somewhere else, or yeah, how it is. But obviously, like this year was devastating for me because I heard the chopper was running across the road, and I'm sort of stuck in the wrong spot because they're cattle farmers and they hate the deer. I've offered the same rate and all that as what these people are saying they don't want to borrow it. So they just walk across the fence and into the other side, and it's freaking don't wander over there. So I've been
Pop,
known
pop,
to
pop.
round them up. I've been known to round them up in the bike and scoot them back over my side,
That's amazing.
trying to hurt them back over. So don't be stupid. Don't jump the fence.
Yeah. You know what though? There's we heard the helicopters going one day in the national forest, and that was it was actually sickening just listening to it.
Yeah,
Pop, 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 pop,
yeah.
pop, reload, pop, 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 pop. It's yeah, it's kind of sad to see that resource, like we've been talking about,
Mm.
it is a resource and it's just get left there for nothing.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And the government, yeah, that's what I mean. We've got to change who we vote for and change people's ideology on what we do. We're not
Mm,
bloodthirsty, And I struggle with the Yanks because everything you see with the Yanks is they yell at kill it, like they're shooting geese and they jump up and they go kill them, kill them, kill them. So to me, that's a bad. You're not
It's a
going to
bad
change that
rap.
because
No,
they're a lot.
exactly.
But if people are listening to that straight away and you're not a hunter, it's just like, look at these fellas. It's kill it, kill it, kill it. Where it's not that.
No.
And like I said, I could have in 11 years I've pulled the trigger on 2 mature stags in 11 years.
Yeah.
And which is hard not to do. Like you see me go for a deer, you know what I mean? Like, I'll shoot that, but it's not. That's not where I am or what I've done. I've done it for and not to prove that you've got it. It's just that that's that management side of it. And if you're inviting people as a circle, that's you need to have mature stags there for people to hunt and pay for. That's what they're there for.
Yeah, definitely. No, I
Yeah,
think the whole approach, I mean, I've been looking forward to doing this one for quite a while actually, because I think that the whole management side of things, there are a lot of people actually asking me about it, like, hey, how do we improve the genetics on our block? How do we actually do the management side to make sure that we do have a longevity piece on the places we do have access to? So I think this one would be really well received. And yeah, I just appreciate you for
yeah.
taking the time and effort to make it happen.
Hit me up if I have an after, and I'm only specific to my place. It's not reds, obviously it's species specific, country specific and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, if they stick to try and get rid of the dogs, limiting people or getting under that same understanding, if you don't have sole access, that you've got to just ring those guys and go, hey, it needs to last for a while, or you need to be smart. And like I said to you, people have never shot a deer before. A deer turns up somewhere in the middle of nowhere and they're like, deer, boom, they shoot it. So there's never going to be another one. But you can't blame people for
Doing
shooting
that
something
either.
they've never
No,
for
exactly.
doing that either. It's one of them
And I think
things.
there's
Like,
an element of that for beginners as well, right? Where you do want them to
yep,
do that because
yep,
that's what keeps the passion going as well.
yep. And I'm lucky, like I said, it's a bit of a niche at the moment because a lot of Queensland herds have been decimated. Like
Mm,
the middle Mount one, where Eric Simons was, Jumanji, whatever it is, or whatever it is, like all that. They're everywhere. They're everywhere in pockets, but they get heavily poached if they're the right genetics.
yeah.
And new people buying a property. A lot of properties buy and sell, so it's a bit like mine. It could sell tomorrow, and I don't have a foot to stand on. That's just the way it
No,
is.
exactly.
That's the nature of the beast, and
You just
it's a
hope
hard
for an
one.
introduction for the next people, but even then, it doesn't guarantee
Yeah,
anything,
it
does it? You
doesn't.
still have to win them
It's
over, and
like
there's an
yeah,
11-year
100%.
relationship there. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. But that's gone in an instant when if they sell it. Like that, the other people don't care. They're coming to buy a cattle property
yeah,
with however many million, and they've got to get their millions back. So they don't
yeah.
really care. So it's good while it's going, but who knows what you can't guarantee anything.
No, yeah,
And
exactly.
that's why I try to manage it and look after it as the best I can. If you've got it, look after it. All I say, and try and get on. Like I said for you, with the multi people, try and come to an agreement because, like I said, one person's ideals are and my mate's a classic example, free hunting up at Charters, like on a block, where he left all the stags that had broken tips and all that. He's real ethical. But I was saying with the meat and stuff like that. So he thought, well, I'll leave all them because I've got a couple of broken tines and blah, blah, blah. Other blokes, because he didn't own the property and different. He was on with an uncle, just say he was allowed to go there because he knew the uncle. But then
Mm,
these guys from wherever they came from knew the actual property owner. So they came on and annihilated everything that he'd left the
yeah,
next year. So,
yeah.
so
Wow.
they grew. So they grew the points. He didn't shoot it because they had snap points. Like
Yeah.
trophies, trophy's a trophy, but you try and you want every point that's available to the animal on it, so it doesn't look like it's got broken brows or a broken top, or that's
Hmm.
just the way it is. So if you can be selective, some things you can't snapshot and hope for the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was getting sort of semi getting the shits because I know what he does with the meat. I know they'd shot like 10 in one day, so that's a lot of meat to try and
Just
process
lost.
in
Yeah.
40-degree heat. So they weren't only just doing whatever, but you can't control it. But if you've got some standing to try and have a little bit of control over it, or contact the people and say, hey, we're all here, let's do the right thing. I think that'll sort of help you out a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm about to go on this hunt with the two newbies that I'm taking out, and the owner said, "Look, the deer are all going to be dropping their fawns. Let's make them off limits this time." I'm like, "Perfect. That's great. Like, I love that as a concept because then we know that we are salvaging the longevity of it for him as well, which I love."
Hmm.
So yeah.
And you can always go, like I said, with the rifle. If he says, "Oh, look, there's too many," which I get, you know what I mean? Or,
Hmm.
I'm just praying for a big storm out there at the
Yeah,
moment.
exactly.
Everything she's all forgotten about because there's grass, like I was saying, growing and, and everything scatters and happy days. It's not all mobbed up everywhere and look like there's thousands of them.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you can drive
exactly.
around and see the same mob twice and you think, there's another 20. But it's not, but they don't see that. See, that's
No,
that's the thing.
exactly. It's
I know
just
what's
them
there,
all.
but yeah, farmer can just drive around 20 times and he's seen 20 deer and he goes, I've seen 100 today.
Yeah.
Like, but it's not really, but yeah, you got
No,
to have
yeah,
that.
exactly. I think
Have,
one of the funniest things that ever happened was James. I went out hunting with James Dempster, and he said, we didn't see 20 pigs, we saw three. All right. I'm like, what? I didn't understand the concept. Now I do.
Yeah, that because you would just want something to go backwards, go down there and shoot the crap out of them.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't worry about the daytime too much with the pigs. We go at night. That's when you know there's more and
Oh yeah, I
it's a
bet.
bit quieter. And anyway, if you come up next year, you'll have some fun.
Yeah, especially I don't know if you've ever done it running the thermals over a
I'm
crop.
full, I'm I'm fully thermal up.
Yeah, that's crazy when you see the amount of pigs you can get on a crop. Sometimes you're like, wow, that's it. Yeah, next
Yeah,
level.
just in general, it makes it so good. Like
Y-
yeah, haven't got a light blazing, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah, yeah,
Great,
hunting with
great.
thermals is next level.
Yeah, yeah. I've got both, so scope and whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
works awesome. Works
Well,
awesome.
I think that's a good place to leave it, and I really appreciate your
All
time. I
good.
appreciate you
No,
sharing your
thank you.
knowledge. It's
I probably waffled on a bit from my first one, but anyway. But
nah,
yeah,
it's
if
all
you want
good.
to wait till I get back from the States and we can pick another topic or hunts or whatever. And
Definitely. Well, we'll do one in camp next time around.
yeah, that'll be the one I want to do. Like I said, do one in
Yeah,
camp and do it where the action is.
definitely. All right. Well, thanks for your time, Sean. Appreciate it, mate.
Awesome, mate. Thanks a lot. Thank you.